days at the moment. So Bodie's
We're live.
at nursery all day. Esme and Ori have gone to Brighton. Gonna be heading to Brighton shortly as well, like a bit later. So yeah, looking forward to this conversation today. How are you doing?
Hey man, I can't complain. It's very warm here, so yeah, it's pretty cool. It's warmer than I would have planned. It's just because the weather keeps shifting from cool to warm, so it's like you don't know where you stand, buddy. I like warm, but just as you start getting used to the cooler weather, it starts getting warm. You know how it is. So big welcome, Tom Rue. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a good day. Two of your comments vanished. Tom Rue. YouTube. You know, I'm getting so fed up with YouTube. I'm actually thinking like maybe you can become free subscribers on Patreon. So do me a favor, go to my Patreon. It's just going to Patreon and at Bush Whisperer and subscribe as a free subscriber. We can try doing a live there sometimes because they don't do that to comments. I sometimes can't even comment. How's my audio, by the way? Is my audio coming through good and clear and loud and perfect?
I can hear you well.
And it's clear, yeah? Is it crystal clear?
Sounds good to me.
Good. If it's a mic you're looking for, by the way, I'm going to recommend this mic that I've got because it's both an XLR microphone and a USB microphone, and I'm using it in USB mode now, and it comes with the EQ software that works pretty well. Okay. And it's the Maona PD400X, and I think they cost about what did I pay for it? It's like less than 150 pounds. It's about probably 120 quid. But it's if you go and look at the specs for it, it's basically one of the better priced decent microphones. It's like for its price point, it's like it's not that much less of a performer than the Shure, right? I mean, the Shure is obviously better. Like you pay 300 quid for a mic, you get a 300 quid mic, right? That's how that works. But our tuition, how are you doing? Are you well? I hope you're good. Hope you're thriving.
£120, did you say?
Maybe 100 quid.
100 quid. Okay, cool. Yeah, the one I've got at the moment is like 30 quid or so. But it's okay. It does the job. But as I've started doing more and more podcasts, and I've started to sort of record myself doing monologues. I want the audio to sound crystal clear, and I record it through Logic Pro music software.
Right.
I've got to push the EQ all the way up, and even then, it still doesn't sound great. So, I definitely need to get a new one.
I'm not pushing the EQ at all, but this one's quite cool. Right now, I'm running it in USB mode. Does it sound crystal clear?
Yeah, it sounds
good, man. Yeah, well, but it's an XLR mic. So when you get yourself an XLR box, you can plug it in and upgrade your sound quality, right? And I realized what my problem was before with my XLR. You know what it was? It was a cable. It was the USB-C plugging into my computer cable, and when I changed out that cable, the XLR was crystal clear. I can actually use this for recording music. It's quite a decent mic. So namaste, dear Hollow Bone Hawk. Lovely to see you. I hope you're well. Out tuition before work. Good for you, man. So we got a cool little discussion here. And by the way, happy April Fools, everybody. It's the one day of the year that you should be celebrating. Do you ever need an excuse to be a fool? To make a fool out of yourself? To make a fool out of someone else in the office? Well, come on, get with the program. You know, think of how many people will smile because of April Fool's Day, right? Happy New Year. Hey, Gaz, how you doing, man? I hope you're well. Hope you're thriving. Hope everybody's doing better than arriving, getting ready for the work, maybe not driving. Did you think that maybe you could be climbing? Yeah, so we're going to be talking about energy today on many levels. So we're going to be talking about energy in terms of the etheric energy, the vibrational field, the beings, the entities. We're going to be talking about energy as in our energy, the media sapping our energy. And we're going to be talking about energy as in the energy crisis. We're all aware of it. Even the UK is being hit pretty hard by it, which is funny because the UK have got such a good relationship with the US, haven't they? I mean, Tony Blair used to have a special place in, you know, he had a special place in George Bush's cave, didn't he? So, you know, there's this really tight relationship, and you can tell if UK is getting hit hard, and the rest of Europe's clamping, and the whole world is sort of being driven where this is going to go. So, without any further ado, shall we jump into the show and welcome? Who have we got here? Della Astois. No, the beans on toast eaters. Beans on toast eaters. Dude, beans on toast isn't the thing, dude. It's fish and chips. Fish and chips and a good cup of tea. No, isn't that the British thing? Actually, can I tell you what's the British meal? They did like a survey in England, and the British meal is curry. I think the British, and I'll be honest with you, they've got some of the best Indian restaurants in the world in India. I mean, in London and the UK. They've got some really, all the best Indian chefs go to England. Did you know that? Did you know that, Shinobi?
I didn't know that. No, I did know that was the number one British meal though, which is funny.
Yeah, I mean, you've got so many Indian restaurants. You've got like a lot of really good Indian restaurants. And I when I first went to India, I was disappointed. I was coming from England, and I was like, "Holy crap! I mean, this is not bad, but you know, it's not England, is it?" So yeah, man, rice and curry, fish and chips, and a good cup of tea. That I think defines the British character as a good cup of tea. You know, there could be like a nuclear bomb on the way, and they'd be like, "Should we have a cup of tea, love? Should we have a cup of tea and watch the bomb?" So what do you think, dear brother Shinobi? Where should we start?
So yeah, today of course is April Fool's Day, and NASA are launching a rocket to the moon. So we're going back to the moon, first time in 50 years on April Fool's Day. So there's nothing to see here. It's not theatre. It's real, people. It's real. We're going back to the moon. I just want to say before we start, I want to mention this galactic year calendar, and the day today is a Wednesday associated with the throat chakra according to this calendar, and it's a red solar skywalker day guided by universal water, and the kin number is 113, which is a 5, so Mercury. And today it's a full moon as well. So it's April Fool's Day, it's a full moon, and NASA are going back to the moon today. So they've picked a day when it's a full moon in the Northern Hemisphere, I guess, and on April Fool's Day as well. They always do things on days like this. I remember a couple of
moon in Libra.
Full moon in Libra.
Moon in Libra, yeah.
6-7. Interesting. So yeah, there's lots of threads to weave today with this energy crisis, which goes beyond petrol and like power, external power. It's to do with our internal power and our internal energy and our internal guidance. Really, it goes beyond the matter. So I guess we're going to get into that later. And yeah, is there any way you wanted to start today, really?
Well, I suppose the best place to start would be exactly where you drop the proverbial, the boomerang, the rang-a-boom, the ring-a-boom being a banger. And like what I'd like to do is to draw the association between just exactly what's happening. Firstly, let's start fear, right? There's a lot of fear being generated. We're all being manipulated. And the fear is being used to put us into a state of unnatural panic. I'll give you an example. My girlfriend went to the petrol station yesterday, and she was surprised that there was a very unusually long queue at the petrol station where she lives, which is Constantia, which is like it's the equivalent of Beverly Hills of California, right? I mean, it's a really nice area. She runs a holistic place there, and so she lives where in the place, which is it's like it's not an ashram, but it's a spiritual center, shall we say? So I mean, otherwise, like people like us don't generally afford to live there, right? Like that's like where it's much more expensive to live there. To buy a house there, I think the cheapest house you can buy there must be about, I don't know, like maybe £1 million. No, I don't think so. I don't think they have small houses like that, but much more. Anyway, probably not unreasonable to spend like £1.5 million for a property or something, and upwards. So it's an expensive place to live, and just for those of you that aren't sure what that means, that must be like about $2 million entry level. So because the houses are all big, the properties are nice. It's Bishop's Court is the most expensive part of that region. So anyway, if you've got a panic for petrol in an area like that, it says a lot, right? It really does say a lot. And sure, there's a long weekend holiday coming up here and all of that, but still, I think there is this general underlying feeling of like people aren't sure if there's going to be a fuel shortage coming up over the course of the next month in April. So everybody wants to stay ahead of the curve, right? So you're going to find even where you are that everybody's going to want to have a full tank, and they're not going to fill up their tank when their tank's empty. They're going to fill up their tank when their tank's halfway, right? No one's going to get even close to a half a tank of fuel, where usually people go to the filling station when the tank's getting empty and fill it up, because it's not anymore. People will be going to the petrol fuel station 2-3 times as often as what they used to, just to play it safe. In the event that there is a shortage, you've got a few 100 miles in the tank, kind of thing, or 150 or 200 miles, which will keep you commuting for the week until they've fixed up the crisis, hopefully. So I think that this is a big deal. And of course, the elephant in the room, gas in the UK, luckily for you guys, it is coming into summer, so shoo. That's lucky for Britain, lucky for Europe, lucky for the Northern Hemisphere. You guys would not want to have this gas crisis going into winter, because that would be travesty. And obviously the fuel price is going to affect the price of food. It's going to affect the price of absolutely everything, right? Everything that you can think of gets driven around in trucks. Aviation fuel, by the way, has doubled. I want you to think about that. It has doubled. So the doubling of aviation fuel means that you're going to have double the costs added onto every single item that flies. If you're living in a country like England, where a lot of your things come in on airplanes, double fuel tax, not tax, but actual fuel costs. And then again, of course, the servicing parts for the aircrafts are going to cost more because of the price of fuel, right? And everything else is going to cost more. And for the workers to get to work is going to cost more, commuting. So there's going to have to be wage increases. Just look at the across the board, cost of living going to go up because of this war. So what is the purpose of this war, really? Why is it being pushed? Why is the Zionist agenda big on making sure that this war happens. Why is Trump so invested in this war, right? And what is going on backstage, right? And like you very cleverly pointed out, and I actually didn't know until you told me about this yesterday, NASA is like, hey guys, let's do a distraction. Remember that DVD we made in Hollywood basement in the 60s? It's time for take two. So, you know, only now it's going to be cheaper to manufacture because we've got AI, right? So they can make like much cheaper, stories for going to space. They don't even need real astronauts anymore, right? They can have AI astronauts. Isn't that cool? Can you imagine how much money they're going to save? I don't know. What do you think? How much of this is just BS?
Well, I think it's interesting they've waited until now, when there's kind of a blurring of what's real and what's not. So there's been a 50-year sort of window where they wouldn't have been able to get away with it. So 50 years ago, the image quality wasn't great. So it was quite grainy and stuff, the imaging. So they were able to get away with fake footage, or what they said was that, we had to film it in case the footage didn't work or something like that. I can't really remember the story. Anyway, Stanley Kubrick was responsible for filming a fake moon landing. Whether they actually did or not, seriously doubt they did. It's very, very fishy. But anyway, they've waited 50 years to do it again. And during this window, they could have done it, but now people don't know what's real and what's not. There's the emergence of AI and stuff, so they'll show a video and people will be like, no, it's real, no, it's AI, and they'll have everyone arguing. And this is the digamma. This is how they split consciousness and divide us, because you'll have people saying, look how clear this image is, look how clear it is, and then you'll have other people who have fine-tuned perception or extra sensory perception, who will actually see through it and be like, well, actually it's not. I mean, Jeff Bezos launched a rocket with Katy Perry and a few others not too long ago, and people thought that was real. And when they opened the door of this space shuttle, when they landed, it was it's made of paper. It's so bizarre. It's they kind of try to test the waters and see what they can get away with. That's probably what that little space mission was about. But what's interesting is that there's it's probably not new. It came out a couple of years ago, a newish Sonic movie. I think it was Sonic 2 or Sonic 3. And there's Shadow, which had been basically, released after 50 years. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because whenever there's a mission to the moon, like India landing on the dark side of the moon, that just signals to me the dark side of the feminine, the shadow of the feminine, because the moon is the feminine's the subconscious. So India, we're going to start doing some shady stuff to do with psychological manipulation, or perhaps they'll be tied in with the West somehow. And then with this moon mission now, it just signals to me the symbology, or the essence behind it, is the subconscious, because that's what the moon represents: the subconscious, the waters, emotions, and then how are our emotions going to be manipulated now with this space mission, like what's coming, because we've got war, which we've been in for a long time. It's not necessarily a war of the physical, it's a spiritual war that we've been in for a while. World War I was created the League of Nations, World War II created the United Nations, and World War III will be the new world order. But first they have to divide us, they have to split us, and this ties into the energy crisis and the so-called cost of living, which is a horrific term. And this energy crisis now isn't just to do with fueling our cars, it's to do with fueling our spirit, our car. In ancient Egypt, the car was the vital essence or life force. And really, this is what it's all about. it's about the spiritual element, and it's also about the material. It's about the physical, like how do we put fuel in our cars to drive to work, but also at the same time, it's the fuel which kind of we put into our bodies, which is under attack too. And this, by this fuel, I mean the food we eat, the water we drink, the things we watch on TV and the screens, the radio signals we allowed into our psyche. This is all affecting our vehicle too. So also, what's funny when you're talking about fuel and yeah, your partner at the petrol station. I saw a video the other day of a lady, I'm pretty sure it was in the UK, filling up plastic bags with petrol. She was filling up like 4 or 5 big plastic bags, and she put them in her boot. Now, the video finished there, but what would have happened when, as soon as she drove off, is that that petrol would not have stayed in the bags. That would have ended up all over her car. So I find that quite funny. Like at the same time, people panic buying petrol and stuff. People need to stop. Like if you're going to stockpile on anything, stockpile on knowledge, stockpile on truth, stockpile on information, stockpile on, you know, like water tablets you put in water in case something happens to the water, ways of filtering your water, long life food. Forget about the car. If anything happens, just chill, just let it happen. You won't need to drive anywhere. If you can't drive to work, hopefully if everybody can't drive to work, perhaps that's what we need. Perhaps this crisis is way beyond this physical material plane. Perhaps this crisis is what we need to kind of burn away the old patterns, and these patterns that we've been stuck in, these patterns are like these strings which have been controlling our subconscious, that perhaps we need to like get rid of them, because this pattern that we've been like that keeps happening throughout time, throughout the ages, we need to burn it away and start tapping into the patterns inside us, our light codes, like a lot of which are dormant, waiting to be accessed. But first we need to burn away the old. So if people can't drive to work, then they can't pay taxes. Good. Right now is the time to, you know, if don't stockpile on petrol, stockpile on fuel for your spirit, you know, truth, information, filtration, water filtration, long life food, maybe stuff like that. And don't panic, because that's what they want. They want us to panic. They want us to panic buy. So so yeah, I think this ties into vampires as well, because with vampires you have to let them in. You have to let them into your home, but first the etheric body needs to be weakened, and this is what it's all about: is weakening our spirit, our energy, our life force, so that we'll do whatever they say, because these are steps towards a one world government, global governments. First they need to drain us. Like that's what vampires do, they drain you. So this is part of the draining of this energy crisis, which is our internal energy as well. It isn't just out there with fuel and stuff. It's how we move through the world. That's our fuel, which drives us.
Yeah, brother. You know, I think there's a lot to that, and I do think that we are definitely in a sort of a crux. And you know, this vampirism takes many forms. I believe it runs sort of, you know, in a natural sort of way, and we are sort of very much at the mercy of the media, you could say, as the media is sort of playing the circus game for all of us and driving us through this corridor of fear into this realm of panic. Like you say, panic buying. Corporations want to make money, and while they're at it, they're hitting us with the other fear button. Remember, the digital passports is on the one side. On the other side, we've still got that. Is there going to be another pandemic? I don't know. Have they built another weapon? You know, these are the questions we ask. Have they got their next weapon ready to test on the public? And So, and are they planning another lockdown? They were like, the last lockdown was such a success, you know. Why was it a success? Well, how many small businesses shut down? So there's another element of financial vampirism, right? Big corporations being vampires for our finances, shutting down small businesses because they cannot compete and they cannot maintain and they cannot stay ahead of the on the open market. And so what happens is they shut down, they they make room in the economy for the big players to take over the economy. And so here we are in this sort of dynamic, being driven like cattle into a kraal, as it were. We call a kraal in South Africa, which is whoops. Okay. I'm being cattle kraaled right now by a cockatiel. He takes my toes hostage, and if I don't put him on his perch on my shoulder, he starts to try and remove my toenails. He's learned that that's a very successful tactic for getting attention, because he wants to get onto these keyboards. That's his goal. And because those keyboards are so much fun, you know, you can pull the keys off. And it's like it's the best toy ever. Yes, my little boy. So, you know, then there's the spiritual element here, which we haven't even really fully considered the implications behind these advertisements, right? Do these advertisements that we're being brainwashed with, and by advertisements, I also mean political announcements. I want us not to draw distinction between the corporate advertising and the government announcements. You see, the government announcement is that there's not going to be enough fuel, right? So that is them letting us know that, like, basically the fuel prices are going to go up, and they're just preparing us for it, right? And of course, like, there's somebody who's going to get a lot of profit out of the fuel prices going up, and it's not going to be us. It's going to be the big oil refinery companies. I have a client, obviously it's anonymous, who's in the shipping industry. And they are shipping, they're shipping all sorts of products. They've had a big problem at the moment with the shipping. Costs for the shipping is going up, and they're worried about their business, how their business is going to turn out naturally, because of what's going on. All the ships are being diverted, so it's a massive shipping issue. And what they were saying was that the oil, right, the refineries, because of this war, their profits are soaring, like they're increasing their profits exponentially. And so this is like just somebody in the shipping industry who's this is their business, and they're calling me for financial advice and advice with regards to business advice. And because I have a lot of different clients from a lot of different fields. I do everything from soul retrieval to advice on business, different things, different aspects. People sometimes just want somebody who has an insight and an ESP and an ability to know what's seen and what's unseen, to give them advice. A lot of these very successful people, they go to astrologers, right? They go to shaman. They go to people who can give them advice that they can't get from normal sources for their business. And you might be surprised, but like, this is one of those things. So anyway, like, it came to me and I was like, that's interesting. Hearing this coming from this person, because this is their industry, right? They didn't hear this on the news. This is what they do. And I was like, wow, interesting that, they were acknowledging openly that that's what's going on. And it's just well known. And so all the ships are being diverted, right? And there's many more barrels of oil being moved around, and the people moving the barrels of oil are making such a massive profit on it that they're happy to pay more, right? To get all the ships. This is what's going on. So, but there's an energetic thing here that we got to think about as well on the personal level. Like when they're broadcasting all these fear triggers for us, right? What is the psychic and spiritual aspect? What kind of beings are being fed? In other words, when you release a government notice and the politicians get up on a podium and warn the people about like doom and gloom, and the advertising starts to like capitalize on this, like you'll find South African ads tend to be funny. I don't watch TV, but I bet you they're going to be making crazy ads about like you not being able to get petrol. And they're going to be funny, right? Satirical. They're going to be hilarious. South Africa tends to have a sense of humor, so we tend to like funny ads, especially an ad like we where you go to the petrol station and you're going to be there all day waiting for petrol. But on the upside, there's a Kentucky Fried Chicken there or a McDonald's, and so you're going to make a whole lot of new friends. Your social life's going to be booming, that's a kind of nonsense. What kind of entities are being like fueled and fed by all of these fear triggers that are being planted into people? And where does this take society and humanity on a spiritual level collectively? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Shinobi?
Well, before we get onto that, I just like to pedal back a little bit. And if people weren't aware, I want to make people aware that Trump flipped the stock market recently by saying that he said that he was in peace talks with Iran or something like that. Have you heard of this, Franklin? Yeah. So from my memory, Trump said he was going to be in peace talks with Iran or something like that.
I believe it was a lie.
It was, because Iran said that they weren't in peace talks. But anyway, somebody, I don't have the details, but people can look into this further. I just want to tie this with a couple of other things. That basically somebody made a lot of money. I think it might have been $1 trillion rather, from this statement, because it made the markets crash. They basically, somebody bet on the markets dipping, and then they brought them out. They do this quite often. So what's interesting about this is that the Rothschilds did a similar thing in, I think, was it in England? It was to do with Napoleon anyway, that the Rothschild banking family, it was Nathan Mayer Rothschild in London. Basically, they found out. Oh God, I should have written this down really. So I'm just going by my memory. They basically, the Rothschilds. Somebody placed a bet on the market that the war would be lost or something like that. By the way, I might be getting this mixed up. It might be the other way around. But what the Rothschilds did is they were in France and they got one of their ships to basically get back to London quicker. And he said that they'd lost the war or something like that. So everybody like pulled their money out of the markets. Basically, my point is that they flip the markets often. So Trump did that. The Rothschilds did that. The Rothschilds bailed Trump out not so long ago. So he's basically in debt to them. Iran and Cuba are one of the very few countries which don't have a Rothschild banking system. There's been blackouts in Cuba, and then now they want to take over Iran. I think perhaps Venezuela might be another country too that's not part of the Rothschild banking system. So really, this is what it all comes down to, is that they're trying to sink their teeth into more countries, because you can't have a one world currency. You can't have a one world government without a one world currency. But to do that, you need to sink your teeth into basically every country, like they did with Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Venezuela, now Iran. So really, that's what it boils down to. And with gas here in the UK, our electricity does rely heavily on gas. I think 30% of our electricity is powered by gas somehow. And I found out the other day that Elon Musk has a contract as of 2026 to provide the UK with electricity. So remember, Elon Musk was providing Starlink to all these countries like Ukraine, like other countries too. Was it perhaps like Maui, or like they create a problem, or they tell you there's a problem. So you, by the stock market or the financial system, we can look at it as basically finances or money being related to the Manipura chakra, which is our will, which is the solar plexus, like the solar, our movement of our soul, the fire within. So the currency, the financial system, is based heavily on our energy. Like we give our energy and we get money in return. So by them manipulating the stock markets like this, and manipulating countries to sink their teeth in, they're extracting that energy. But it's not. It's all of our energy. It's our collective energy. So they create the problem, they see the reaction, and then they give us a solution, and then they make us pay fourfold for the solution. So Elon Musk supplying the UK with electricity. I don't know why he's doing that. But first, they probably need to create a problem, which is energy shortages. And then Elon Musk will be the savior who will come in and provide us with electricity. And our bills won't be cheaper. Our bills will just go up. But people will be like, oh, thank God for Elon Musk. He saved us from Russia and Iran, which have caused cyber attacks, which will probably happen. They'll say, our media have already said that Iran are planning cyber attacks here in the UK. So that will probably happen. We'll have cyber attacks, power outages, which they'll blame on fuel shortages, which I don't believe. These power outages have been planned for a long time, because you've got to kind of put people in the dark slightly, like literally, and in their awareness. You need to kind of turn out the lights, so then that these vampires can step into the threshold and then try their manipulation and pulling our strings. But yeah, this is all fear tactics, as you say. Like the real energy is our own energy, and that's what we need to lock down. So these external lockdown energy lockdowns, I think like we need to start locking down our energy and not giving our energy away so easily. Easier said than done, but there are ways to do that, and perhaps we could finish this conversation later today on a solution. So we talk about the problem, people can have their reaction, but then like it's good to have a solution, and how we can kind of not get caught up in these tethers, these strings that try to sway us one way or the other, these strings of fear.
Yeah, brother, that makes me think of David Icke. He was the one that coined that saying, wasn't it? Problem, reaction, solution. I was trying to find a video of him saying it that I would clip in like a 2-second clip. But I've been watching David Icke say that now for like a quarter of a century. In fact, more than a quarter of a century. I think he's been saying that since the last century. And it's really what we are observing. Speaking of solutions, that we know that they are going to offer us a solution, right? The kind of solution where we will own nothing but be happy. Yeah, that's their solution. Their solution is to maybe get less people working, right? So what will the solution be? Well, okay, the price of fuel has gone up, but it's okay because we've built robots, and the price of labor will go down, right? So our economy will be okay. Okay, less of you will have jobs, but that's okay. The government will look after you. I think this is where we're going. They're turning us into back in the USSR. You don't know how lucky you are. This is the game plan. Make everybody dependent upon the state, or a lot of people dependent upon the state. And then the state says, well, in order for us to give you this, they create a system which is fraudulent. What does that mean? It means a lot of people can defraud the system. And I'm sure that a lot of people are defrauding the system for benefits in the UK and in Europe, for example. And when it comes to universal income, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can cheat the system, right? They can be getting universal income and be doing a bit of black work on the side. Think about it. It's an obvious no-brainer. So the solution for this, and obviously, is the digital ID, right? Because that way we can track everything that you do, right? And then we can track your phone with your digital ID. We can track everything and keep track of everything on one neat and tidy database, who you talk to, when you talk to them, so we can know what exchanges are happening outside the system. We can criminalize barter, right? Because if you want to get universal basic income, you need to sign a contract that says you're not going to barter, right? This is how they'll probably do it. And so you won't be allowed to swap. Because the government's giving you food and what you need, you're not allowed to swap that for other people with other people for things that you don't need, right? Because then you can cheat the system. And so they will get you under, they will want to get people under this web of control. And basically the next point would be, we need to really have this digital ID inside your body for it to be functional, right? That seems like the next step. And I'm finding it very strange, but I can't see start comments here. Have you noticed that? Oh, there it is. Okay. It's just there isn't a box open for it. Okay, good. So I think this is the goal. The goal is to soften people, get them ready to become panicky. Then, okay, there's a problem. Let's get action. Let's get the people freaking out, running to the petrol pumps running out of station. A bit of protesting, a bit of wildness, a bit of crime, a bit of people freaking out because they don't have money. And then, okay, we've got the solution. And so we need to have our own solution. My little boy came to me this morning. This is very sad. He's 9 years old. He says to me, Dad, I'm worried. I'm like, what do you mean you're worried? I'm worried I might become a criminal one day. I'm like, what? He's 9 years old. He's a boy, maybe he saw a gun film and he figured, oh, that looks like fun. No, he doesn't want to have to get the RFID chip. And he doesn't think he'll want to take the chip when he's older. And he says that, but then how is he going to get food? And how is he going to have to be homeless because he won't have the chip? I'm like, dude, where did you hear about this? No, you heard about it from his mother. I'm like, okay. I've tried to protect him from too much. Even his mother seems to grasp these basic ideas. But this is partially a fear-mongery on the one hand, and partially a reality on the other hand. They are creating a reality for us, and then they're making us afraid of that reality so that they can push us into their reality. And I want to use an analogy here. Imagine a hunter hunting an animal, and the animal's afraid because the hunter is making people over there shoot a shot to chase the animal this way, using the fear of that shot, letting the animal know that you're going to get hunted, so that they chase the animal towards the people with more guns, if that makes sense. Or they drive a car with big lights to chase the deer towards the hunters, right? And so that this is a typical hunting strategy, using fear to force animals to go where you want them so you can get them. And this is sort of like the same thing that's happening on a bigger scale here, right? Humans are being cajoled using fear so that they can drive us towards the thing that it is that we're running away from, that we fear. And it's totally connected to, everything else. The way I see it is like this. You're going to have a lot of people suffering with psychological illnesses, or what we are diagnosing as psychological illnesses, because of all of the propaganda and because of all of the fear being propagated. However, this is where it gets interesting. In the old days, those psychological illnesses would have been considered maladies of spiritual nature because of entities feeding on people's energy. But now that we've been taught that we're living in a materialistic world and there's no such thing as entities, it's just a mental illness, it's your brain that's wrong. Okay, it's just your brain that's wrong. We can fix it with surgery, implants, and chemical drugs. It's not a spiritual malady. It's a problem just in your physical brain, and we can fix it. And so you see, problem reaction, solution. It seems on every level that they've got this covered. And you know, as a parent, it shocked me this morning to hear my little boy saying this, because I couldn't look him in the eye and say, oh, that's not going to happen. What do you do, Toby, when you're going to be facing this soon enough, when your kids are like starting to like figure this stuff out? They're going to come to you and they're going to say, Dad, what am I going to do one day? And I'm like, my only solution was to say to my son, well, this is why I've taken you on the mountain a lot. I need to take you into the wilderness and teach you how to survive in the wild, my boy. Because then you can always go into nature. You can go live with the animals. and you can take other people into the wild, and you can create alternative sustainable schemes where you can like grow your own food and live in nature. And he was like, okay, that's a solution. It was so good to see my little boy nodding at the idea, thinking like, that sounds like fun. Going to live in the wild. And I said to him, you can build tree houses and live in tree houses. He was like, ooh. What do we do when it comes to our kids, man?
Yeah, well, I think there's first off, my kids, especially Ori, at the moment, he's like he's not afraid of being a criminal. He's, for example, last because he's 7, last Halloween he dressed up as a thief. Oh, I can't say it with my list. A thief. So he's like, I've got my swag bag full of sweets, kind of thing. So I think he's at the threshold now of like, you know, he doesn't really know too much about the outside, about the world stage. Like I talk to him openly about anything and everything. I never hide anything. Like, I'll talk to Esme about stuff in front of them. I think just be open about stuff. When he's had questions, I'm open to him about how things kind of work. But there is a lot of pressure on children, like especially like kids who are in the education system going through like GCSEs or A levels. Like, they have to memorize, recite information, and it's all like statistics and this and that, like mechanistic. Whereas really all that matters is just being a good human, a good person. And people will say, oh yeah, but being a good person won't get you anywhere in life. Well, really, you just have to look at who are the richest people in the world. Bill Gates, Elon Musk. Now, do we want our young people to be like them? Or do we want our young people to grow up and stay true to themselves? Because the current monetary system doesn't value ethics and morality. It's the opposite. So there's a lot of pressure on young people to, like, when you're older, have lots of money and get good grades and all this stuff. But really, like, we're forgetting the fundamentals. And I think that what's really important for children to learn is discipline, self mastery, like martial arts, being able to connect to the earth and nature, being connected to water, because people drink water all the time, and it's so important that people are connected to water, connected to earth, all of the elements really. And it sounds so simple, but it's things which aren't taught in school that we as parents need to teach our children, and teach them and train their imagination and intuition and extrasensory perception, and being able to like get outside of their brain and into the all mind, which is the all spirit, which is endless, and let them know that there's endless possibilities of what they could be, who they could be. And this is, I wrote down here at the beginning, spirit and matter, and mind and body, and there being a kind of bridge in between that. And I think that this bridge is key to be able to bridge spirit and matter, because we are creators. We bring things into matter through our imagination. Anything you see, it was created by a thought. Probably even the universe itself was created by a thought. In the beginning was the word. Was the word the weird? Was it the fate? Or was the word a sound or a frequency? And what was that sound? Was it Om? or I like to think it was as in deep thought, as in just thinking. And then this ties into the all mind. Everything is just a thought. Everything is pure potential. And if we're able to bridge this pure potential with the physical matter, then we can channel and bring things into being. And kids have this imagination which seems to be lost as when people get older. That kind of people seem to be what's the word, put in a box. You're this, you're that. This is how things work. And I think that the only way we get out of this energy crisis, which we've been in for a long time, is by thinking outside the box, thinking differently, not being afraid to be a scapegoat or a black sheep, or some people find it easier if they're stubborn because you'll stay true to yourself. But lots of people think that they need to follow others or follow orders because it's the right thing to do. Like in COVID with lockdowns and wearing a mask and this and that, it's just the right thing to do. Well, sometimes the right thing to do is the wrong thing to do. And sometimes you need to stay true to yourself and your beliefs and be more centered, because when you're centered and you're anchored, then you're not swept off in what's going on in the outside world. And the people are quite untethered. People are quite untethered to their truth, so that they seek external truth or external knowledge. So yeah, like I'll just wrap up this little rant with, I think bridging spirit and matter is so important because I view this as the formless and the form. And then in between that is the morphs. And this morph, this changing is what these entities seem to want to harness. There's just the middle way. You have the formless, which is the untapped, unseen, beyond, and then you have the matter, the physical, and we can bring the unseen, the untapped potential into the physical. But first we need to know how to use this magic, and it's this magic which has been kind of weaponized, and people are kind of putting a lot of fear out there. So I'll just I'll stop that little rant now. But I think bridging spirit and matter is key, really, because it's not just physical. There's things going on in the unseen, and there are the powers that be know this. And in a little bit, I'd like to go through a little presentation of some tabs I have with it's with Event 201, COVID, Exercise Solaris, which became Exercise Pegasus, a couple of other exercises here in the UK. It's about this energy crisis as well, and I want to just show people the absurdity of what has happened so that they can not fall into the same patterns, because these are repeated patterns. They try to use the same script, the same narrative, the same story, the same store of Ori, the same light codes. But once we see them, we don't have to fall into the same traps.
Brother, there's a lot of wise words there, and I'll start at the beginning, and I'm going to respond, and I want to add to. And I think this is like you reached a crux point of that conversation. But before I get to that, I agree with you. Our children are the key, and we do need to really focus on educating them. I can't say this enough. Like, we cannot trust teachers with our children. Just leave them to carry on. We need to have a quiz. If your child's in a school, you must quiz them when they get home what they learned, and explain to them, well, that might be BS, that might be nonsense. Oh, I don't know about that, my boy. We're not sure about that one, okay? Just because there's a teacher and they're getting paid money doesn't mean they don't work for the government. My son has a healthy fear for the government. Fear isn't a bad thing, right? I'm not into fear mongering, but we do need to understand that we cannot trust the government. We need to be wary of the government. We need to be afraid of their intentions. Doesn't mean we live in fear, but we recognize that these guys are not there for us. Our children got to know that they're liars. You got to know that they're out to make money for themselves, and that they work for the big corporations, which is the super rich people that control the world, and that it's all just a puppet show, and there's no point ever voting. And so it's our job to also let our children know that the AI beast is a beast. It is a demonic machine, and it's there to control your mind and stop you from thinking for yourself. And so I've put a lot of time into like trying to get my child as integrated into nature as possible. I think that's the key, because what you're talking about, that bridging spirit, matter, heart and mind, and creating a conduit of singular potential and presence, so that we can exist both on a physical and spiritual plane of existence simultaneously with cognizance and awareness, and bring that through into the world. That's the goal. Now, with that in mind, this reminds me actually specifically of a conversation that I was having just yesterday. And a friend of mine, someone who will hopefully be joining us on the roundtable, he had a friend who reached out to who he was speaking to, and he had sent him my Enneagram video. And he gave me his friend. He said, well, this is what his friend had to say about it. And he let me know. And I thought, well, this is interesting, because this will fuel me to make another video. So what the friend said about the Enneagram video, and for those of you that haven't seen it, go and take a look at it. It'll crack open exactly what we're talking about, and I'll explain in a moment. He says he raises interesting ideas. However, most of his claims remain largely unexplained and unsupported. Right. Now that, my first response was like, red herring. Unsupported? Woo! That is the watchword in the new age. That is the watchword that the unsupported means you need to go and get some external source of fact checking, right? You need to find some external book that verifies what you're saying as being true, or it's unsupported. This is a mindset that comes from the education system that we were talking about, where you've got to verify what you believe according to somebody else's words. And that's got to be in print. It means you got to rely on the printing press and the gatekeepers of knowledge and information. Very dangerous. And unexplained, well, I don't believe it was unexplained. I think I explained quite carefully in that video exactly what the problem was. And just to summarize the idea is, the video was made basically showing you that Oscar Icazo invented the so-called Enneagram system. He invented it, reinvented it. He didn't take an ancient system. He took ancient ideas and he made his own system between the ages of 12 and 19, 20 years old. By the time he was 21 years old, he was hailed as a spiritual master, teacher, and he was teaching his system, and he was getting access to the public domain. He was being given a platform as a youngster. Who did he know? Where did the backing come from? Where did the money come from? None of that's mentioned. The guy's life is itemized like a shopping bill, right? You can tell everything about his life, except where he got the money to start his first school in 1956. That's a mystery. That's strange. Why is that one piece of very fundamentally important information missing? But everything else, like what he had for lunch, where he went to the toilet, what clothes he was wearing on Tuesday, that's all documented. But where he got the money to start his school, nobody knows. It's a mystery. You've got to so I'm pointing out these facts, and then I'm pointing out the fact that the ancient numerology, which is universal, whether you go with ancient Egyptian numerology, Kabbalistic, Hermetic Kabbalah, Jewish Kabbalah, whether you go with Akkadian numerology, Vedic numerology, Chaldean numerology, the numbers all have very clear meanings, and that there's a hijacking happening of the actual meaning of number. They're trying to rewrite the numerology handbook using this new Enneagram system. And then pointing out that this new Enneagram system was basically, it's being told to us it's an ancient system used by the Chaldeans. No, it's not. There is an ancient system of the 9 spheres in Chaldea, which is essentially the same as the Kabbalah, which is essentially the same as the Egyptian. The Egyptian Ennead is an insight into this and how the Ennead relates to the numerology of ancient Egypt. That's interesting. Those fundamental 9 deities and what they represent is aspects of the universe coming together in creation. So I pointed all this out, and he said, well, yeah, it wasn't explained. That's the other part. People are looking for spoon feeding. This box that Shinobi's talking about, we've been taught to live in a box where we want to have somebody to listen to. We want to have somebody to believe. There's John, Paul, Franklin, Toby, whoever. They're giving us the information. We need to believe it. That is a trap. That is a mental trap that we can all fall into, and we've been schooled into like fish going into that trap. So like this is fundamentally important to recognize and realize. Supported information means nothing. Explanations mean nothing, but ideas are important. Concepts are important. We should take ideas and concepts and we should test them for ourselves. And then we should go and do our own homework, our own research, and figure out for ourselves what makes sense to us. We should not be taking anybody else's word for it, because that in itself is a trap. And for example, you want to research the Kabbalah? Do you think you can research it on the internet? I'm telling you now, you can't. I'm sorry. They're making you believe that the Bariya, the second realm of existence, is related to the element of air and the principle of air. That's a new age thing. It's the same as the Enneagram. They're changing it. They're giving you a new thing, and they're telling you that this is an ancient Kabbalistic system, but they've reinvented it in the last 50 years. It's nonsense. The last 50 years, this idea started to propagate. It's become now popular because of the internet. The same thing can be said for the chakras. You think you're going to learn about the chakras from these new age writers and books? Oh yes, the base chakra is red, the heart chakra is green, and this one's blue, and this one's indigo. You think those colors are relevant? Or do you think it was invented by a psychologist that knew nothing about chakras? It was a convenient system. It's convenient. It just itemizes it. Actually, there's a lot more complexity when it comes to chakras and what chakras really are, explanations. Oh, it's this metaphysical thing. Mate, it's related to the hormonal system in your body, your hormonal glands, but the hormones are vibrating and they're carrying consciousness into the body. Oh, so it's actually the worldview that's got to be looked at. The question of what is the state of matter? How does matter work? What are hormones actually? What is the frequency of hormone? Go and research this for yourself. DNA. Do you know that your DNA is vibrating between the 1.2 gigahertz up to 10 terahertz frequencies in your body? These are frequencies of vibration. They are producing cymatic resonant fields. This is how vibrations and electromagnetic fields work. So you've got all these electromagnetic fields and a range from 1 gigahertz right up to 10 terahertz. And then you've got peak points where they are harmonically converging with different fields of vibration, because there's so many different codes vibrating. So they tell us your DNA is a code that's written down. No, it's a sequence of vibrational fields. It's a sequence of rhythms. And that sequence of rhythms can be understood as sound and not sound. 0, 1, 0, 1, sound and not sound, sound and not sound, vibrations. So it's all just patterns of rhythmic vibrations through. So to understand these things is to question the physics we've been given, to question everything, to recognize that the occult therapeutics, Aleister Crowley, you're practicing this new age stuff and you think you're getting an insight into the occult. Yeah, I mean, they want to drive you down the road of the clipboard. They want to take you in down the left-hand path to go and play with the demons, right? And so it becomes this psychopomp adventure. You think you're interested in shamanism? You want to read books on shamanism? Are you joking? Do you think I read any books on shamanism? I promise you I've tried. I've tried about 6 or 7 or 8. I don't even know how many. And do you know how far I've ever gotten with a book? I haven't even read a chapter. I haven't even been able to read more than 2 or 3 pages before I'm like, I'm going to vomit. And then I skip forward and I read, I'm like, who is this idiot? Like, what are they doing writing books about shamanism? Are you joking? Is this? And then you go to the next one and you open and you go, like, what nonsense is this? Where did they suck this rubbish out of? And so, but this is now the authoritative information about shamanism, and you can get references. You can reference your knowledge about shamanism by quoting these idiots. Come on, man. You can't learn about this. You want to learn about shamanism, you go into the wild. You sit under a tree. You listen to the wind. You feel it. You connect with the energies. You start to tune into the earth. And what happens? When you're ready, the master appears. The master will appear, be they physical, be they non-physical. However, when you have made yourself ready, and it's the same for the occult, you're not going to learn about the occult by reading it. You're better off, if you really want to learn about the occult and you want like real advice, right? Go and sit in front of a fire. Just meditate on the fire. Just meditate on it. Stare into the flames. Watch it. Feel the fire. Concentrate on the fire. Meditate on what that fire is doing, the feeling, the heat, the exuberance. Another day, sit on a hill and feel the wind and just stare at the skies and the clouds. Feel that wind moving through you. Get the sense of wind. You know, another time, go into a cave or sit on like a mountain and feel the earth underneath your feet like a big root pulling you down. Meditate on the elements. Get and build a relationship with them till when you look at the sky, you can see spirits in the clouds. So when you look at the earth, you can see the gnome earth spirits in the earth. So when you look into the fire, you can see the salamanders dancing in the flames. Now you're actually making a connection elementally with these energies. And if you do that, you will start to open up your sense of perception. And then when you do get presented with information, you'll be able to test it with your own experience, right? And when you get to a level of opening, the universe is perfect mathematics. Someone will come to you in order to take you to the next level. This is how it works. So it's not so much about reading nonsense on the internet. It's not so much about any of these things. It's about the work. It's about doing the work. You know, you want to learn to open yourself up. If you're asking for me honestly, just sit down comfortably, symmetrically, with your body in a state of symmetry, the left and the right the same, whether you're sitting in a chair with your hands on your knees, whether you're sitting cross-legged, whether you're in Siddhasana, whatever your posture is. Backs needs to be straight, and start to follow your breath. Just be observing your breath. The key to meditation is awareness. You're just bringing your awareness back to where you are wearing your awareness in terms of the situation of where you are, right? Instead of the awareness being off in that thought campaign and that thought campaign and that emotional journey and that memory and this out there, bringing it all back right here, right now, and just follow the breath. The breath is life, and just sit with that. And what needs to be the underlying practice? Patience. You just want to sit and you want to wait. Why do you want to wait? You want to feel the weight. You want to feel the weight of consciousness. You want to feel the weight of consciousness upon the earth. And how do you feel the weight of consciousness upon the earth? You sit and you wait. You can practice meditation while you are waiting the consciousness upon the earth for a bus. Huh? See? Every time you have to sit and wait for something, that can be an opportunity for you to just sit and tune in. And you'll start noticing the more you do that, the more you'll become aware of your surroundings. You'll start picking up on the thoughts of the people around you, the feelings of the people around you. Your ears will go supersonic. Your senses will start to become your sphere of sensation and awareness will expand. It will still be where you are now. It will just get bigger. And from where you are now, you'll get like a bigger bubble, and you'll be able to be aware of people further away, but they'll still be part of your here. And I think, like, you know, there's so much non-clutter out there, and so much. And so it's not really about what we've learned or what we've thought or what we've believed or what we think we know. It's about what we experience. And so experience is the key. Hey, Mid, namaste, welcome. Welcome there, Madame Boo. You know, it's just practice, Madame Boo. It's just practice, like anything in life. Yeah, brother, you're back.
Hey man, yes, nature called. Had to make another coffee as well. I left when you were talking about awareness, I think, and just being aware. And with the word awareness, what it signals to me is awe and airness. Airness being related to the mind and intellect and spirit, and the awe being related to movement or the heart. So it's the bridge or the connection of heart and mind. That's awareness, and to bridge that, it's our vagus nerve connects our heart and mind. So it's our nervous system. And earlier you were talking about, I think, yeah, you were talking about hormones, and the endocrine system is a network of glands and organs that release hormones into the bloodstream. And endocrine reminds me of indoctrination, because it's not an exact sync, but it's, sometimes I get signals. So endocrine and indoctrination, they're similar, because that's how it works with indoctrination. It's to do with like releasing hormones into the bloodstream, and our stress responses, and how we relate to external forces, really. And when our nervous system is disrupted, then that kind of severs the heart brain connection, or the bridge of spirit and matter. So with awareness, you can connect the heart and the mind, or the spirit and the matter, the mind and the body, by being aware. And the awe is the heart, which is the movement, like reverse osmosis. Like an awe is what moves us. Like when you're in awe, you're moved by something or someone, or like music or art. It moves you. And this awe is this kind of spin, is this vortex of the heart, and the airness is the mind. And when you let the air come into your mind, and then down into your heart, and then move it and spin, you create a vortex. Fire has a vortex, water can vortex, air vortexes as well. And those are what the earth is comprised of, not compromised. So yeah, I just love splitting words and kind of going on the journey that they take. And awareness is awe, and airness the heart and the mind, and it's the bridge. It's not just to go into your heart and forget the mind, and be all love, all just heart, and no intellect. You need the bridge of both the mind and the heart to be centered, because this kind of ties into the Luciferian aspect of spirituality as well, like this kind of escapism, that you need just to be all heart, and then no mind. Because if you're all heart, you're just all love, and then you just love everything, and there's no good and there's no bad. Well, that's not true. Of course that's not true. That's a complete whitewash. There is evil, there is darkness, and there is light as well. And it's important to know which is which, and it's important to also know that darkness isn't negative. We say there's darkness, there's evil. Darkness isn't evil. Darkness is the unseen. That's the inversion, that, oh, that's negative, or that's dark, because the negative space is the unseen, untapped into space, which is what needs light. And in the same instance, the light, all of this like love and light, well, the light can actually, what's hiding behind the light? If it's so bright, you're not able to see beyond. So it's kind of the paradox of the dark and the light. And this is part of the dance, and that's part of the snake as well, which we've spoken about before, Franklin, is this this is kind of like dualistic perspective. It's like the yin and the yang. One contains the other. In the darkness, you'll find the light, and in the light, behind the light, is there darkness? Is the darkness shining the light, the false knowledge, the false wisdom, the escapism of just everything is just how it is? You know, so it's interesting, this kind of dance of them both. And this is what awareness is, to be centered, to not just say that's how it is and that's how it is. There is a dance and there's movement, and it's important to not be moved by either, but to observe.
Yeah, man. I think that is the key, you know, is to choose what we're moved by. And we're so easily moved by external circumstances and external conditions. I'll give you an example. You walk into a building and the color is affecting you. You didn't notice it, but the color of the walls are affecting your emotional state. And the particular decor, the feng shui, is going to affect you. Now, there's one of two choices. You become moved by it, or you become aware of it. The moment you become aware of it, you notice how it's affecting you. When you notice how it's affecting you, you've got a filtration potential. You can filter out the effects and suffer the effects on a mental level rather than acting them out. So you could become aware, going into a space and go, you know what? This red color everywhere is actually really affecting my pancreas, for example. Red has a powerful effect on your pancreas. Yeah? Pancreas, Manipura chakra, third chakra, not root chakra. Can I clarify that? Not root chakra. In the real world, the color red affects your pancreas. That's why when you go to real yoga, you'll find that the red color is related to your solar plexus chakra, because it literally makes you hungry. Why do you think McDonald's is red? Why do you think Burger King is red? Why do you think most of these fast food stores have a red motif and a red colors, right? There's a reason for that, because red stimulates your appetite. Why do they also have yellow in them? Because yellow stimulates your sense of touch, stimulates your sense of feeling. And so you stimulate your sense of feeling and your touch. Red stimulates your sight, your eyesight. And so we tend to eat with our eyes, right? That's an interesting point. We tend to eat with our eyes. And so that's why we say, like, people have their eyes were too big for their stomach, because their eyes were overstimulated. So the color red makes your eyes get too big for your stomach. The color blue has a different effect. So understanding how colors affect our consciousness is really powerful, right? If you've been practicing and studying this traditional yoga system, you'd have these ideas. If you've been studying this new age yoga system, you think that red is all to do with your root chakra. Red is an energizing color. Red is not really specifically a grounding color. Not specifically. It's a color of action. Get out there and do.
Can I just add something there? That
and danger.
Our traffic lights are red, which is stop, but red is actually, like, red shift is the furthest light we can see, like infrared is far. So red really should be go, and really blue or green, because our traffic lights are green, but they're kind of teal. I can see blue in them sometimes. That's go. And I can't help but think there's a slight inversion there, that we've been made to think that red is stop, but really red seems to be outwards, to expansion, and blue seems to be more internal. So why is this greeny blue go and red is stop? It's very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. You know, the only thing about red is, like, if you're walking in the wild and you see red in front of you on the path, you should probably change direction or stop or go the other way. Maybe that it's a fear response, because most creatures with red are dangerous. Like, if you see a red spider with a red dot on it, it's called a black widow. they got a bit of a munch on them. If you see a red scorpion, The small ones, they're the only ones that can end your heartbeat for an adult that's healthy. The black scorpions cannot. No other scorpion can end your heartbeat, by the way. It can just cause you a lot of discomfort and pain unless you have a predisposition towards a problem heart or something, then okay. Then a lot of things can end the heartbeat. But so red, if you see one of those centipedes with red on it, be careful, man. There's an ouch machine waiting to happen. So, I think that the idea of red and passion is fear. Now, why is fear connected to red, right? This is very interesting. Fear is connected to red because the adrenals are in the kidneys, right? Now, the kidneys have got a very important role in your replenishment of your blood, right? The replenishment of your blood and temperature maintenance in your body. The liver and the kidneys work together. But red, the kidneys, the adrenal glands are in the pancreas. Now, the adrenal glands will stimulate one of two responses. It will activate your triple burner, right? And your triple burner is going to kick back into your liver and your kidneys. So kidneys would be like more of a fear response. Liver will be an anger response, right? So there's danger. Somebody comes to threaten you, you got one of two responses. You get angry and you beat the crap out of them, or you get scared and you run away, right? That's your triple burner. It's fight or flight. Fight, liver, flight, kidneys. Fight or flight. But this is being driven by the adrenal glands, and those are wired in, connected to the pancreas, right? So you see this physiology of the color red, why red is the planet of war, why red is Mars. It's got to do with your hormonal system and how your consciousness is wired into your physical organs. Chinese medicine will explain this. So, looking at your physiology is probably the best place to start to understand how matter and consciousness is bridged, because the human body is a map. The human body is a map. It's a map of the soul. And so you can't go wrong if you're studying your physiology. And learning a little bit about naturopathy is like the best thing that you could ever do, because you're doing away with pharmaceuticals. And then you learn enough about naturopathy so that when you go to a naturopath, you can tell whether they're full of crap or not, right? So become your own doctor. And when it's a serious matter, go to like a better trained doctor than you, but a natural one. And so, and obviously that means you need to learn about food and nutrition. Like, well, what does your body need? Not the lies that they tell you. Like, if you Google what nutrition is in food, they're going to tell you about calories. Who cares about calories? You want to learn, if you want to Google food, don't Google nutrition. Google what minerals does this item have, specifically minerals, and then look at the amounts of the minerals, right? And so you say, what minerals does broccoli have? Milligrams per 100 grams. That's your Google search term, for example. Now you're going to get a list. It's going to say that broccoli has apparently so much iron per 100 milligrams, so many milligrams of iron per 100 grams, and so many of this. And so you can research all the different food groups that you're eating. To do this, I recommend you all do this. And then look at what you're eating. Like, make a list of all the foods you eat habitually and Google them each. And get the minerals and see what minerals your body are getting. And then do another list and say, well, what are the minerals my body needs? And you might go, hey, I'm not getting enough selenium. Hey, I'm not getting enough that. Oh, I'm getting less iron than I should, and adjust that by eating the correct foods. Then you might never need a doctor, right? So I think like medicine is probably the biggest farce, right? That's probably the worst one that we're dealing with at the moment. And the world needs more naturopaths. Really, it does. Like people that are passionate about like medicine and health, and nutritionists. The world really does need more nutritionists. Not the ones that are certified by the government, like the ones that are interested in really knowing about food. Otherwise, they're going to come talk rubbish to you about calories. Calories don't matter so much. We're living in a world where we get more calories than what we need. And you'll know if you've got too few calories because you'll get too thin. And then you'll just increase calories. If you've got a problem with calories, you can just eat a bit of pasta on the side, right? Calories saved, like whole grain pasta. But the minerals, that's what your body needs. So you want to take in as much food with minerals. Cut out the calories. Instead of eating that calorie-rich food, just eat more of the food with the minerals. And load your bones full of the minerals, because it stores in your bones, in the marrow of your bones. And so that then powers the rest of your body. And if you got the sufficient minerals, then you won't be susceptible to viruses. For example, the right amount of selenium, the right amount of silica. What does silica do? It's like a sheet around your skin cells, your lung cells, your throat cells. So a foreign body wants to get into your body. Oh no, there's a layer of silica. The stuff's hard. I can't break on through. You got like eczema things that want to get into your skin. They can't get into your skin because your skin's got armor. So, eat the right minerals and your body's got armor around your skins. The right salts. Yes, tissue salts. Exactly. Namaste. Welcome every day. Hope you're good. So, these are the things we should be teaching our children. And it's like I was saying to my son this morning, I was like, well, you're not quite ready to learn about the mystic sciences yet, but I want to teach you. I think like at 9 years old, they're a bit too young to start appreciating these things fully. And some of the things he said to me, magic isn't real yesterday. He couldn't find a Garthon. And I explained to him that I'd put an invisible spell over a Garthon. And he was like, no, magic's not real. And I said to him, magic's not real. Excuse me? He says, no, I know magic's not real. I said, you cannot believe what you're learning on the internet. You cannot believe what you're learning from your class teachers in your live stream Zoom classes with your UK syllabus. No, but it's not real. I said to him, oh, so why didn't you see a Garth? And he said, because he wasn't in the cage with the other birds. I said, wasn't he in the cage? He said, I went to look. I said, you didn't see him because I made him invisible. And he was like trying to recognize. I said, well, he was in the cage. Why didn't you see him? So yeah, he had to like try and fathom, like he went to look and he couldn't see him. I was like, because I wanted you not to see him. That's how magic works, my boy. So it's up to us to teach our children that like this thing is powerful. It can affect thought currents. If you can leave a charge of thought current, it will affect other people. If you put an object on a table and you make the thought current around that object so strong that you don't want anyone to see that object, people won't notice the object. They'll notice everything else, because like our mind's affected by thought currents. This is magic. This is like 101 illusion. So, understanding how this thought current works and how to maintain a thought current field, and how to turn on like an unconscious switch to maintain that thought current, a little bit of siphoning off of your thought current potential to keep that running is something that we can all do. Because like you could be walking down the street. For example, I lived in the UK from time to time. Now, I have never, ever in my life been stopped and searched in the UK, ever. Ever. How's that? And I used to walk through them all the time. They stopped and searched my ex-wife. They never stopped and searched me, looking the way I look, with long dreadlocks, big beard, dressed like some weird psychedelic hippie. That's how I used to dress, right? So I used to go to Kathmandu to get my kit. And I was a little bit like, I liked to wear nice like yak wool clothes and like funky colors and like, like unusual, trendy kind of clothes, just because I love color. I love having like, indigo, and I love a silk shirt. I used to go to all the charity shops and buy beautiful silk shirts. I love the feeling of silk on my body. It's my feminine side. I love it, dude. I love the feeling of a nice fabric. This is organic cotton I'm wearing. It feels good. It's an old t-shirt. I can barely get rid of it. Organic cotton worth buying. They last like 3, 4, 5 times as long as regular cotton. So the little bit of extra cost in the long run, you're saving money, dude. So, what you put on your skin. Did you know that 80 to 90% of all cotton is GMO cotton? And it's not just GMO, it's BT cotton, which is animal cotton genes mix. And the stuff, micro spores and pieces of cotton fiber get inside your skin, right? Becomes integrated into your body. Think about it. So like there are a lot of things that we should be focusing on to improve our psychological and mental, physical health. And when you do that, you will automatically start to see in a different way. And I think that's the problem. We're not seeing. We're living in a world, we're blinded by our own perception. We're in the box of our own beliefs that have been trained into us in schools where we learned to move like schools of fishes. And we're not thinking for ourselves. And even those of us that think we're thinking for ourselves, we're not always. I catch myself trying not to think for myself. Do you catch yourself doing that, Toby?
Doing what?
Trying not to think for yourself?
I don't really know. Trying not to
You gotta watch yourself. Like you gotta watch yourself. You gotta be vigilant, dude. Like watch yourself. Like no, I'm watching. You know what I'm saying? Because like we've all been conditioned in a little way. We just don't know it.
Yeah, I guess so. I can't really think of any like examples, but yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. We are all conditioned like via subconscious programming, just doing like little things. I actually think, like thinking of it now, like occasionally I do catch myself doing something. It's like, why am I doing that? Just like little, it's always subtle things. That's the subconscious, you know, which is important. Just like for breathing, we don't really think about breathing. It's just something that we do, but there's lots of like patterns and stuff, things that we're used to that we can kind of like when we step outside and observe ourselves, it's like, why am I doing that? Why am I doing this? One example I can give actually is having cereal in the evening, having like a bowl of granola or muesli in the evening. I went through a phase of having a bowl of cereal every evening at like 8 o'clock, 8:30, around then, quite late. So I usually go to bed around 9:30, 10. So it's not good to eat like that close to going to sleep. It's actually really bad for you. And occasionally I'd get up, I'd go to the kitchen, start making a bowl of cereal and be like, why am I doing this? It's just something I do. So I've tried to become a bit more self-aware and conscious to not do that too often, because it's not good to eat right before going to sleep, really. And then occasionally I've been like, actually, do you know what? I don't really care. If it's just once in a while, as long as it's not every day. But yeah, like on the topic of clothing, apparently, like, you know, Crocs, apparently they were created for the Idiocracy movie. Yeah, they were created for the movie Idiocracy. So I believe somebody, like, they were asked to make the most like stupid piece of footwear or whatever. They came up with Crocs. And then after the movie, they started circulating, and now like most people have a pair of Crocs in the house. Well, I found out recently that Crocs, because they're made of like plastic, they can actually leak chemicals into your body, especially if you're wearing them in the heat, in the sun. They can go through your skin. Like, you know, I'm not sure what the list is, but just think about heated plastic and what that can do to your body. Like, you got like formaldehyde, like binders and glue and stuff. And the thing is, people don't know this. Like, I only found out about this the other day. You can't know everything. So that's something people should be aware of, especially if you're like, our boys have a pair of Crocs each, because they're light, because they're breathable, but they may be breathable, but at what cost? So their Crocs are going in the bin. And it's like, are we idiots? Is that why they're in the movie Idiocracy, and then now they're like mass marketed? Because it seems like that's part of the script that we're in, is the movie Idiocracy. But with Temu as well, clothing brand, they found like very high concentrations of lead in their clothing. And lead can, well, it can be quite useful for blocking EMFs, but we emit EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. And when this is blocked, you know, it's going to block outside signals, but it can also stop our signal expressing itself. So you have lead found in some clothing. Most exercise clothing is made of polyester, which is plastic. And people don't know polyester is plastic. Polyester is plastic. It's made from petroleum. So this ties into our energy, our fuel, our vital essence or life force. Because if we're putting plastic socks on, you know, plastic clothing, if we're binding ourselves in plastic, our body can't breathe, and we can't breathe. And this ties into being in the box, because it's not just a mental box, it's just being restricted. So we're restricting ourselves by wearing plastic socks, plastic underwear, plastic clothing, especially doing exercise in them. So yeah, cotton is better, even better yet, organic cotton, and even better than that, linen or silk. But people aren't aware of all of this stuff, because how can you be aware of everything? You can't be aware of everything. And this isn't like general knowledge that people know that plastic is actually, polyester is actually quite harmful for them. It releases little bits of plastic as well, which go into your bloodstream too. And there's enough of that in our bloodstream already. So yeah, also on the topic of pharmaceuticals, I tried finding the etymology of ceuticals, because we know that pharma is far, ma being the mother and far being, you know, far. The far ma are far, like us tapping into the creation, us tapping into that has been flipped and reversed, and now it's farmer. Now we're being farmed. So rather than us being kind of like shepherds or like you know, wanderers wandering, now like our wandering is flipped, and now we're being farmed. And so I tried finding the etymological word for ceuticals, and all I could find was cuticles, which relate to your nails. It's a thin layer of protective skin on your nail here. So then you have a nail. Okay, all I can think of with a nail is like nails on a cross, you know, like Christ being nailed to the cross, Christos being nailed or stuck, or nails in a coffin. And this pharmaceuticals is ceuticals being a nail, something which binds, and pharma. So what these pharmaceuticals do is they constrict us, and they constrict us by putting petrochemicals in pharmaceuticals. We put it in our body, and then it deteriorates us over time. And therefore, unlike we put petrol in a car, when we put petrochemicals in our car, it actually drains our vital essence or life force, believe it or not. So, so yeah, I maybe there's some other etymological link to cuticles, but that's all I could find for that. Yeah, can I just share some tabs? I've got about, well, it's about 10 tabs to flick through. So what can I do?
Are they Google tabs, or are they photos you have?
So they are Google tabs.
Okay, just make sure that you don't activate the volume on the Google thing, yeah, just so you know, where when you open it, you just open one thing, yeah? You know how to do it.
Yeah, so open one thing and then click share new tab.
Yeah. Just make sure that when you open it, there's a little tab on the right that says volume. Toggle it off where it says mic, and otherwise we're going to have two instances of our mics running, and it's going to have us audio feedback.
Okay, cool.
StreamYard. Yeah.
All right.
That's
well,
there in case it's a video running. Yeah. If it's a
Okay.
video that you're sharing, then you put that on, but then everybody's got to have their volume off. And then the moment that's on the screen, it's still, I don't know, the AI software goes all haywire.
Okay. So let me just set this up. Share screen, share tab. Here we go. Is that coming through all right? Okay, I'm just going to share. Look, share
The
these.
volume's on that. Can you close that and start another one? You see the volume on the top. There's a little microphone there. So when you click share the tab, it will immediately let me show you what I mean.
Okay.
No, I can't show you what I mean, can I? Okay, I know. Entire screen. I'll show you what I mean here. So if I share this, then I'll show you what I mean. So let's say I'm sharing that, and I click here, and I click present, and then you can see me presenting there, and I'll say, you can't do it, Don. You have to stop screen. Okay. But there is a little toggle. The first thing you go, when you click on it and you have to select which screen, on the bottom right corner, there's a little volume mic toggle. Cool.
Got it. Let me know if that's good. Yeah, awesome. Sweet. Right. Well, I'm just going to skip through these really quickly. Not too quickly, but I don't want to spend too much time on each tab. But I think a good place to go back to is Event 201. And if anybody hasn't heard of it, look into it. You can watch it on YouTube, or you can watch it on Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. It's basically a pandemic exercise which happened about, I think it was like 2 months before COVID. It was in October 2019. And then we're going to go on to here. So the Gates Foundation had a stake in UK prison firm Serco, and this happened in July 2019, mere months before the Event 201, which Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, and the usual suspects. It was Johnson & Johnson, I believe Pfizer was there as well. So people, these guys, they sort of get shares in these companies, and then something happens, then they profit. That's how they become billionaires. So we've recently in the UK had the COVID inquiry, which found that one of the main problems was that we didn't lock down hard enough, which I find quite funny. Okay, so in 2016, there was a NHS preparedness exercise called Exercise Cygnus, which is, surprise, surprise, a constellation. And Cygnus is a swan. So I guess this signals a black swan event, possibly. So that was in 2016. This is the Cygnus constellation there.
Can I add something?
Absolutely. Please do.
The swan is Hamsa or Hansa, and it relates to breathing. And COVID was?
Wow. So also, the swan here in the UK is, it's illegal to kill any swans because they're like something to do with the royal family or the queen, or maybe now the king, but swans are like sacred. So what I find quite bizarre about this is that we have bird flu, which where basically they culled loads of birds, loads of livestock like chickens and stuff. But with this Cygnus, Operation Cygnus or whatever, it was supposed to be an outbreak of virus from a swan, which is really weird because that would mean that they'd have to kill all the swans. And I'm sure the royal family wouldn't have that. So I find that quite funny. So Exercise Cygnus was a simulation exercise carried out in October 2016, which was related to like a bird flu, but specifically from a swan. And then in 2016 as well, we have Exercise Alice, which was about a Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS-CoV. And that was run, well, it was ran from 2016, but the details of Exercise Alice were kept secret on the grounds of national security until October 2021. So with Exercise Cygnus, that was kept a secret until the end of 2020. So with these exercises, they're supposed to test out our healthcare system, see if there's any holes or whatever. These were kept a secret for like 4 or 5 years, which is very, very bizarre, because if there were any holes or anything, surely they would have looked into that. It's more like they were kind of planning procedures. It's like, okay, let's hide it until we run COVID. So then we have Exercise Solaris, which people probably haven't heard of. This was the predecessor to Exercise Pegasus, which ran from July until I believe it was like December. So Exercise Solaris ran in spring of 2025. It was May 2025. And the findings there were really, really like bad. It's quite difficult to find information on it. But basically, it was a total disaster. They ran a pandemic preparedness thing, and it found that our NHS was not equipped for a pandemic at all, whatever. So, so then we have Exercise Pegasus, which was, well, it was written on July the 16th, which is a 7/7. And it says here it ran between September and November. Oh no, apologies. Between September and November is when the Pegasus constellation is visible in the sky, which was when this scenario was ran. It was between July and December. And on September the 7th, we had an emergency alert here in the UK. So remember the name Pegasus, okay? So it's interesting that the constellation was in the sky while they were running this exercise. There's no coincidence. So then on the 7th of September, we had an emergency alert here in the UK where every single person's phone in the UK was accessed, basically. So there would have been an emergency alert. Pegasus is a highly sophisticated spyware developed by the NSO Group, which is an Israeli startup firm, which basically hacks people's devices. Pegasus was iOS devices. It says iOS and Android, but what's interesting is that Pegasus was a twin. His twin was Chrysor, and Pegasus was for iOS devices, and Chrysor was the Android device spyware software, which basically hacked people's messages, phones, and leaked them to other governments. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this Pegasus scenario is about hacking our device, about how they hack us, how they manipulate our subconscious and our psyche. This is why Pegasus used in hacking software, and this is why there was Exercise Pegasus, because Pegasus is the white horse representing freedom and wisdom, and Mercury, messenger of the gods. So we have recently, the past couple of weeks, UK to build new contact tracing system and stockpile PPE under a 1 billion pandemic plan. It says here that this first new preparedness strategy since 2011, well, that's not true, because I've just shown that in 2016 they did exercise Cygnus and exercise Alice, and then there was exercise Pegasus. So this isn't the first new preparedness strategy at all. This £1 billion, when we have this energy crisis, you know, not much money, where they're finding £1 billion from to buy PPE and build a new biosecurity hub is beyond me. So that £1 billion, let's go back to between 2022 and 2024. The UK government burnt £1 billion worth of PPE equipment, like masks and stuff like that. So a couple of years ago, they burnt all of this PPE stuff, like gowns or masks, and now they're spending another £1 billion to buy more. So it seems like we're just being set up for another con, and it's basically a money laundering scheme. So I've almost finished with these tabs, but here we have the movie Contagion, came out in 2011, which was about a Nipah virus. So Nipah virus comes from a fruit bat to a human, much like the COVID-19 virus. So we have bats relating to vampires here, and these bats or vampires navigating using ultrasound. So this is very interesting, because in India, in January, there were 2 cases of Nipah virus in the news. So it kind of looked like they might be pushing this Nipah virus, because they can't use coronavirus again. They've pushed that to the max. So I thought they were going to push a Nipah virus. And this document here is the National Blueprint for Biodefense, which came out in April 2024, and it was about a Nipah virus outbreak in America, which would happen on July the 4th, 2024. So the reason this is interesting is because it mentions the National Blueprint for Biodefense. Now, Exercise Pegasus didn't really mention biodefense, I don't think, but this document did. This is the same as Exercise Pegasus, because, as you were saying earlier, Franklin, the UK and America are linked. So they seem to do these like pandemic exercises, play stuff out, but they have them slightly different in America, slightly different in the UK. I'll just give an example of how that kind of works. Is that in America, there's you have this whole ICE thing with mass deportations that they're doing in America. Now in England, we don't have that at all, but they're trying to create a problem of mass immigration and trying to inflate this, trying to cause mass division so that we call for that here. So they're playing this scenario in America of mass deportation, seeing how it sits with people, whereas in the UK, they're sort of pulling on our emotional strings. And actually in May of this year, there's a march it's not by Tommy Robinson, because he's lost all respect, hopefully. That's why. It's another character they're using. But it's basically in May, everyone go to London to put an end to this immigration stuff like that. It's basically to cause mass civil unrest, which is what they want, basically civil war. But it's interesting in how in America there's this mass deportation, but in England there's none. It's like they're trying to stake the fire and want people to be okay with deporting people, because it's not just going to be immigrants deported. It's going to be, if you disagree with the system, you're going to be deported too. That is really the end game. And the reason why I've shared all of these tabs here is to try and show people the common thread between COVID coming from a bat to a human, Nipah virus coming from a bat to a human, with Exercise Pegasus, it was about an meningitis outbreak, which they tried pushing a few weeks ago in the UK, which fizzled out because people were aware of the psyop. But these are connected because COVID, back to a human, Nipah virus, back to a human. It's to do with like swelling of the brain, which is meningitis, and then we have Exercise Pegasus here in a meningitis outbreak that they tried pushing using Exercise Pegasus, using this white horse. And the horse relates to the etheric body. It's kind of the structure or vessel. And for me, I made a video on my channel a few months ago about Exercise Pegasus. I've kind of started making a new one, like a little series about the horse and what it represents and the myth of Pegasus. But just briefly with the myth of Pegasus, so Pegasus was drinking from a spring, from a lake, from water, and Bellerophon basically tamed Pegasus using a golden bridle and used Pegasus to fly to Mount Olympus, the planet of the gods. So this is interesting because I just view Pegasus as us. The essence is Pegasus is freedom, is Mercury, messenger of the gods, it's wisdom, and that's us. We're messenger of the gods, we are Mercury, we can travel between realms, be channels. We have wisdom. This is our divine spark, aka Sophia. This is what they want to extract to make way for the eighth sphere, the realm of shelves. But first, they need to sink their teeth in and extract our wisdom. And this is 8 Sophia, the 8th sphere, the realm of shells. This is the end. So, but first, they need to weaken our etheric body. They need to weaken our life force, our energy, our chi, our prana. So they do what they can to sink their teeth into that. And of my understanding, these are astral beings which can do this. I may be wrong about that, but that's just my sense that there's astral beings. To get into our vessel, they need to weaken our force field. Our force field is our thoughts. Our thoughts are our force that protects us. This is why there's mind over matter. This is why the power of thought is so important, because this is the placebo effect. This is science, placebo effect. With COVID, anyone remember? Act like you've got it. Just act like you've got it. Act like you're ill. Act like you're unwell. Fear, fear, fear. Then you'll start becoming unwell. Well, what if you don't act like you've got it? What if you say that's bullshit? What if you don't buy into the psyop? What if you detach yourself from these strings of manipulation, these threads which try and bind us, trap us in time, have us stuck in the past, looking to the future of, oh no, what's going to happen, rather than being in the present, being centered and anchored. So yeah, I'll stop that little ramble there, because I've kind of lost my train of thought, because I was on too many different streams there, so I can't really navigate myself back to where I started from. So I'll pass the mic over.
Yeah, brother, you know what you were saying about the force field? I think it's very relevant, extremely relevant. Like we can see here, right? Like when you look at the Saturn square, just to give an insight into the energetic physical body, that you've got these two principles, pushing and pulling. You've got the contracting energetic etheric field, and you've got the expansive, expanding astral field. And the astral field is expanding outwards energetically, and the form is contracting that expansion into a point of harmonics. And so the harmonics is where these two fields meet. And the harmonics, as you can see, is the blue line, which is Mercury, number 5 in the center, right? Mercury, which is the ocean, the Mer, and the Curie, which is the bringing together, the curing of things. That's why you cure glue, to cure things together. And you'll notice that the harmony is the top of the pole. This is the tree of life, if you will. The flowers on the tips of the trees, on the tips of the branches and the leaves, brings that beauty and harmony to the world, and the good smells. And the root of that tree is number 4. Okay, so 4 is the root. And notice that 4, force. Okay, so let's think of what the word 4, the number 4 and force is all about. So 4 represents crystallization, and represents the edge of our aura energetically, and represents our grounding into the earth, and represents also our beliefs, what we know. And it's archetypally, if we look at it, it's related to Uranus. It's your anus, right? And your anus is your Muladhara, your root chakra, right? No coincidence there. And Uranus is also related to the North Node. The North Node has got to do with your plans for the future. So you're rooted energetically in the earth, and the plans for the future is the contraction. That's relation to Saturn. You can see in this diagram here, there's a yellow line connecting Saturn to 4. And so 4 becomes perfected in number 8. 8 is about money and resources and success, and is a very powerful, one of the most powerful numbers in terms of power, personal power, becoming organized and directed. Sorry, you cannot chew cables. You cannot chew cables. And so 4 is fundamental to your sense of grounding, and your sense of grounding also relates to what you're believing and knowing, as like what you've learned. So there's knowledge element to it. This is why in Muladhara chakra and the root chakra, you'll often see in Vedic cosmology that Brahma is there, and he's looking at the 4 directions. And the 4 directions, like if you look at Egyptian numerology, I like to mix it up for people. Don't just stick to one form of, get it all in there. Like, let people see how universal this ancient knowledge is. And that number 4 relates to the 4 directions. So it relates to the cardinal, and the cardinal elements, or the 4 aspects of our being. So that 4 rooting into the earth is rooting our space. And so the space is literally the space around you, the energetic, the space that contains your energy. And if that 4 is out of balance because you've got funny belief systems, now 4 is influenced by what we learn. Okay, that's interesting, right? Learning, because your earn is related to Saturn, number 8, your earning, right? What you earn, money. What you learn is related to your number 4, or what you've learned. Let's put the T on the end of that. What you've learned in the past will become what you will project yourself towards in the future. It's got to do with conditioning. So the force is the power of our conditioning. And we've been conditioned to be a certain kind of a person. And that certain kind of a person that you've conditioned to become relates to that number 4. And so here we can see with the Saturn square how important that 4 is right up in the top left corner, because it's the rooting point. And understand that this blue line running diagonally, this is the axis mundi. This is the sushumna, the line running up your spine that balances the Ida and the Pingala currents of consciousness towards a singular state of being. And so it's the way in which the soul body is manifesting in us. This is why shamanic totems have this element that you dance around this totem pole. The maypole dance, right? We're going towards May now, right? We're in April. The maypole dance is going to be up ahead. That maypole represents that blue pole. And the bottom of that maypole, where it goes into the ground, is number 4. And the top tip of that maypole is the aerial tip. That's number 6. That's attracting the beauty, the harmony, and the abundance of nature so that things can grow. Number 5 is the center of that maypole, which is why you need to move around it to generate the flow of energy. So you can see the structure, that blue, if you turn it up, so you've got to rotate it. You've got to rotate it upwards, right? And that is sitting on a clock. Where is that sitting on a clock? That's sitting on a clock at about 4 p.m., right? So you got to rotate that from, is it 4 p.m.? Yeah, it's sitting at about 4 p.m. on a clock. You got to rotate that 4 p.m. all the way back up till the 12th point, and you've got an axis mundi standing up. So is it a coincidence that from 12 to 4 p.m.? Just look at what they've done here, right? If you have a sunstone, what do you call it? The clocks, where you put a stick in the ground and you keep track of time. Notice how they've rotated that number 6 from being the top. They've moved it 4 points on the 12-point compass, right? So what are they telling us here? They're talking to us about the first house, second house, third house, fourth house. What is the fourth house? The fourth house relates to the sign of, think about it. You've got Aries is a resonant frequency that touches the first house, right? Taurus is the frequency that touches the second house, right? That's May. We're going to be going into May. We're in Aries now. Then after Taurus, you've got Gemini. And after Gemini, you've got Cancer. So what does Cancer represent? Cancer represents the moon. Cancer represents family, right? And so your driving rudder, the tip of your pole is influenced towards the house of family, the house of this positive sort of home, your home life. And so the home life is pointing, and now look at where they've put the 4 pointing here, right? They've got the 4 pointing up, and the 4 is pointing at which point? Quite interesting if you look at it here in terms of if you were to imagine a clock, right? The 4 is pointing at number 11. So they've got the 4 pointing at number 11. Number 11 is number 2. 2 is the house of the moon, right? And our moon happens to be what rules Cancer, right? So, and we can see here we've got the moon, which natural qualities related to the moon is empathy and sublimation, going into the unconscious. So you can see the kind of messages that's being sent here in the way that the number 4 is being positioned, and the way that number 6 is being aligned. Number 4 is being aligned with the moon, which is interesting. And that is the house related to, in our Western zodiac, related to number 11, snake eyes, the most powerful manifestation of lunar energy that there is. So it's important. We call this in Vedic cosmology, we call it Shiv Shakti, and it represents the polarity. And so whenever you're dealing with duality and polarities, you're dealing with potential. And that potential in the number 2 is what gives it 2 its frequency. Why is 2? 2 is the number of a medium. Why is 2 such a powerful potential? Because it's holding these 2 forces in check. And it's like a sounding board. But because, let me give you an example. If you want to walk across a tight rope, right? What's the best way to do it? The best way is to get a stick, a big long stick, and hold it in your hands. Why? Because that stick produces a powerful polarity. What does that powerful polarity do? It makes you more sensitive to the rope. Did you know that? Because you got this powerful polarity, you're more sensitive to the changes in your ears. You're more sensitive to the rope. You're less likely to tip left or right, because this powerful polarity that you're holding in your hands gives you a much more sensitive feel of what's beneath you and your ears of what's around you. So polarity makes you more sensitive. Hence, moon represents sensitivity, going inside to your unconscious. Because of this powerful polarity that you're binding, it makes you able to bounce off the surroundings more easily, which makes you more empathic. So, there's a lot being said here with the Saturn square, but the number 4 relating to the word force and our auras is really important. And this is why magic has got a lot to do with the moon's energy. Hence, you'll find a lot of magical traditions very focused on the moon. Hecate, for example, very moon. The initiation might be to do with the number 6, right? The number 6 is fundamental to initiation. But look at this particular Saturn square. Look at where the number 6 sits, right? The number 6 is sitting in which house? The 4th house. The 4th house is the house of Cancer. The house of Cancer is the moon, the moon's only rulership in the whole zodiac. And the moon represents initiation. The high priestess represents the moon, right? So the moon as the high priestess is the tarot card that represents the archetype of initiation, and that represents going inward, and that represents sensitivity to the spiritual domains. So you can see how the number 4 and force is fundamental. If you want to strengthen your aura, what do? Here's an old magic trick. The 4 directions. Okay, so let's think about it for a moment. This is like a little bit of practical information that you can literally use very, very easily, right? And it can be quite fundamental and quite powerful in how it can become functional. So, and this operates on all sort of levels, right? This is whether you are practicing invocation or whether you are practicing something else. It's immaterial because it's going to be as functional as anything you can imagine. And so let me just crank this up quickly. Let me just get it in here, baby. So share the screen. Yes. Volume off. Image. There we go. So here we can see, what is the magician doing? He's strengthening his auric field so that he can use that power, the thought currents of energy. Maybe I want to actually put him on the stage. Let's give him a chance. Let's put him on the stage. We have to remove that one and put him on there. So here we can see the magician. And to illustrate what I'm saying to you, right, to make it very clear, he's holding his double-ended wand in his hand. That is the moon's power. That's polarity, what I was saying. He's got Saturn above his head, like I was pointing out. This is the power of 4, is carrying the vibration of Saturn in a subtle thing, right? And what does he have in front of him on the table, on his altar? This table is an altar. On his altar, he's got the 4 elements, and he has the representative tools of the 4 elements. And this is how he creates a synchronized flow of energy in a circle where the current is rising up his right side and dropping down his left side. And this is an ode to the Shashumna's presence with the rising current of the Pingala and the dropping current of the Ida. And you can see he's wearing the zodiac around his waist as well. So he's got the sign of Leo eating Cancer around his waist, which is quite interesting. And it's all about the red color of Mars, number 9, transformation. So how do we protect ourselves? We produce an inner field of transformation, which is channeling the power of number 9. And we do that by revering the number 4. And the best way you revere the number 4 is to honor the 4 directions. So create a very simple system for yourself where you make a connection with each of the elemental energies of fire, of air, of water, of earth, and you respect them in their cardinal places, right? I'm in the southern hemisphere. The sun holds its most power in the south, right? The earth holds its most power in the north, right? The east is where the air element comes from. So the east will always be the point of the air element. And the sun sets, the life goes towards the west. And so that takes the heat away. That's like the element of water. And so you revere the four elements and you breathe them into your energy field, and they seal up the four directions. And so there's an idea why in magical traditions you will find that the lesser banishing ritual is such a big thing, or why Wiccan or various traditions will always have a circle that you cast, and that circle will represent the coming together of the four elements, and that there will be an honoring, whether it is sitting and having a meditation where in the East you see an eagle, right? Or in the East you see an animal related to the air. An ox would probably be an even better option. And the bull of heaven crawling across, but the bull is also related to the element of earth because there's a relationship between air and earth. Somebody was mentioning it here in the chat earlier, which was like, I pointed that out. That's interesting. So you could build relationships, right, with the element of air and earth producing a fundamental balancing polarity between the air and the earth, and a fundamental balancing polarity between the fire and the water, because these are in opposition to each other, right? Because the air destroys the earth. When the air blows the wind, it breaks the earth into powder, and that turns into air. And when water goes over the fire, it puts out the fire. And when fire comes near to water, it evaporates the water. It turns it into air, right? When earth is put over the air, it suffocates the air, and the air becomes dusty. If you throw lots of dust into the air becomes dusty, and it becomes no longer functional as the air. So it becomes too dense. So you can see these subtle relationships represent aspects within ourselves and thought-based currents. And so we can work with our own base alchemy using the power of the number 4, like I was pointing out to you, which is the Force. That's Star Wars, man. This is Jedi knowledge here. And the knowledge of this number 4 and how this 4 represents these basic qualities of the builder, you can build your aura, you can build your energy field using these 4 principles to structure your energy field. And that structuring will make it that nothing can permeate or get into your head or your consciousness. Psychic Self-Defense 101.
Yeah, thanks for that, Franklin. I just wanted to ask about the 4 directions, because did you say that the north was related to the earth? Could you just go through the 4 directions briefly? Because I'll say first that I can't comprehend the 4 directions in relation to any other way apart from north being air, east being fire, south being the earth, and the west being the water. And I have heard people before, and then like yourself, you've just said that that's not the case, but I can't wrap my head around that, because the sun rises in the east, the fire is the opposite to the water is the west, the opposite is the east, which is the fire, where the light rises and comes from. And then the north being like the up, being the air, like, and then the south being below our feet, like grounded.
The relation of the element of air to the element of to the direction of east, I think, has a lot to do with these little guys. Right? Whoa! Where are you going? Okay, he flew off. He's fine. Sorry, he got stage fright. It was like, no, not me. I'm not on the podcast. I'm going away. Don't look at me. I'm not part of this. So these guys come out and celebrate the rising of the sun. The birds rule the element of air, right? The salamanders, the snakes, and the lizards rule the element of fire. They come out to bask in the midday sun when the sun's hot, because they need to they need that energy. So the salamanders and these are fiery creatures. The birds are airy creatures. You'll find that the cows and the bulls, which are essentially earthy elements, but you want to seal your air with your earth. That means that it's rotating, right? You want a procession of these creatures going around the circle of your totem pole. This is like from a shamanic perspective. And that's why you turn around and you draw the energy around you in a circle to create a mixing of these 4 qualities, and they mix and they go into a spiral inside of you, and they power your central middle shashumna, or your middle platform. So the element of air has always been to do with like thoughts and planning and ideas. In the morning is when your mind is most active. It's when your thoughts are most active, which they consider that's like that thinking, ideas, air element. As the sun gets higher, you become more passionate. Your powers of digestion and your pancreas become more active, because now the sun power is that heat power. So here in South Africa, our houses have to have south-facing windows to get more light, because the south is bringing the sun in its peak. You got the sun. So that's an interesting point that you say, like what are the elements? I think that east is universally air and west is universally water. But I have heard different systems that switch over the north and the north and the south, which is interesting. And so whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, I've seen different versions of this presented. And I wonder, that's interesting. But the understanding as well that most of the occult lore and knowledge that we have does reference the east as being the element of air, the south as being the fire. That's sort of a universal sort of thing. And I wonder whether that's got to do with bigger, more cosmic forces of outside of our own sphere, relating to like the center of the galaxy being north. And that's the point of contraction, right? And so that contraction in the point of central would then represent the central contraction of Earth, which means on the south, you would have the external expanding thing like a fire is expanding, right? And the air would be like where we're moving towards, and the water is what we've left behind. Like when you breathe in to your future life, you're breathing in air, and what you breathe out from your past is water vapors, if that makes sense. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know whether there's a fixed set thing for it. I have seen different systems that have used different directions based upon where people are. I think it's more important to build a relationship with the element itself, right? Especially in the UK, you need north-facing windows, don't you? No? You need south-facing windows, right? So you need to be in the north. That's right. In the south, we need to be in the south for fire. So, the fire is on the southern side to receive the fire. So, these differences of ideas are interesting. I mean, even though I am in the south, I still use the recipe of the north. I don't think that matters so much because of location. Energetically, I might be in the south, but my ancestral tree comes from Ireland, right? My ancestral tree is rooted in Ireland, in Wales, in Europe. So even though I'm here in the south, part of me is still up there. The language that I carry comes from up that side of the world, the Britons, English. And my cultural experience and my grandparents came to this country not that long ago, right? So I've been on the southern tip of Africa my life, but I also spent a lot of my life in the Himalayas. So I've spent a lot of my physical life in the north. So, where do you feel connected to the earth most? That's an interesting question, right? You might be physically here in this space, but this space might be energetically translating us ancestrally to another point. But I think the important thing is to build a relationship with the elements themselves, right? Because that's an emotional connection, and it's a visceral connection that you can tap into, and that can replenish your energy field, your force. The force can be replenished by these four fields of vibration. That's my take on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll try and explain why I've always felt that more connected to fire being in the east. Because if I'm, for example, say this is the east, the right-hand side, the masculine side relating to fire, that makes sense for me that it's the fire which is the east side. And then the west being the water, the opposite, water, divine feminine, fire, divine masculine. So you have these two poles here. And then I'm standing on the earth. So my feet are on the earth, which is the south, which is under me. And then above, I have the air. And it's the air that moves the fire and water like this, that creates a vortex of flow. And I'm grounded on the earth, which is under me. So that's why, I guess you can do it any way, but this is how in my mind's eye I tend to ground myself, is like south is the earth, the fire is the action, is the east is the masculine side, which is the logic, which is related to, I guess, the logos as well, like the light. And then the west is the dark, the set, the water, the feminine. And then the air rises. So that's why my mind's eye, I picture the air above, like the eagle flying high. And in the south, the snake, the grounded, connected to the earth. And then you have the vortex of the fire and water being moved by the air from above, but the grounded, the depth of the earth beneath my feet. So that's what I've always felt and been drawn to. And I've heard people say in meditations before what you say with it relating the other way, and I've always like been thinking, why? So yeah, thanks for that explanation. You know, what's that you're sharing there? See, the east, the wood green dragon, is that relating to the earth then, the wood? Is that what that represents? There's so many different, like, your mic's muted.
Right. No, I was just trying to see what happened to that tab because it disappeared. No, there it is. There's the tab there. So that I'm just showing you an alternative system just to give you an idea that there are different systems out there. So the Taoist system, okay, so in Western occult, we consider the element of air to be polarized. So the air represents, okay, so there are two fundamental principles. There's the principle of expression and expansion, which is fire. And there's a principle of contracting coolness, which brings energy into itself, which is water. And these two expanding and contracting principles, there is a further movement added to the expansiveness of fire, which is what dances between the earth and the fire, and it's dual in its nature. And we consider that to be the element of air. So the air is, okay, so fire is hot and dry. Earth is cold. Water is cold and wet, right? Fire stands between the two. Fire then becomes warm. Air stands between the fire and the water. It takes the heat from fire and it takes the wetness from water, combining it to making it hot and moist. Earth stands as a polarity between fire and water, taking the coldness of water and the dryness of fire and combining it to make it cold and dry. So earth is cold and dry, water is cold and wet, fire is hot and dry, and air is hot and moist. So you can see there what I've just explained to you, that makes a circle in the Western cosmological model, right? Because you've got on the one side hot and dry, right? And it's moving in this cycle towards the water being, the fire being the beginning and the water being the end. And so it's like an Ouroboros expression of Leo and Cancer. Leo representing the sun, Cancer representing the moon. That belt around the magician's waist is sort of carrying the silent ood. Now, if we look at this image, this page I'm showing here, which just gives you an idea of the Taoist system. So they break the wood, the air element, into wood and metal, right? And so wood and metal are two aspects of the air. And so they represent there that south is fire, right? And they represent that the north is water, right? And then they represent that the metal, the air element, has the receptive air element of the east and the projective air element of the west. And then they put earth element to be the center of the circle. So these are different ways of conceptualizing the elemental energies, and there is no one way that is the way, if that makes sense. This Taoist system is equally potent, equally active, equally effective as the Western. So, and then you'll find in the Americas there are other systems as well. So it's about understanding like the running of these elemental energies. And so the Taoists, they actually consider the polarity of earth, the polarity of air, to be so important that they've split them into two different elemental substacks, where wood, and notice there's no air element anywhere here. It's just earth, water, fire, wood, and metal. And wood and metal is the element of air. But where wood is air's affinity with fire, metal is air's affinity with water. Remember what I said to you about air borrowing something from water and air borrowing something from fire? There's something of air that from the fire, the wood fuels the fire, right? There's something of the element of metal that it fuels the water. And that's got to do with metal's electrical potential and water's dielectric, diamagnetic potential, and metal's potential to become magnetized. And that water can be affected by magnetic fields, if that makes sense. So effectively, you could probably make rain with magnetic fields. Does that make sense? Using these principles. So that's what they're showing here, how these principles operate. But both systems are just showing you different things about the principles. So, but that's why I say the most important thing is to build a relationship with the elements yourself, because that is your internal energy source.
Interesting. And then you have the Chinese body clock as well, which you like fire would be, or like red would be associated with the pancreas, you said earlier, and that's to do with the small intestine, I believe. And on the Chinese body clock, that's between 1 and 3, which is the peak of the sun. The sun is usually in the summer, the peak is between 1 and 3. So there you have the red fire, which is interesting. And then that clock relating to the pancreas, which color is red. It's so interesting looking into all of these threads of how the colors fit. And I guess that's how we understand or get to know what is true. Like, because the middle of the day being associated with the sun, or sorry, rather south being associated with fire, I can understand that now, because the south is midday sun where it rises in the east. And then midday between 1 and 3 is related to the pancreas. And then the color for the pancreas is red, which relates to fire. So that's why the fire element would be related to the south. So that's very interesting. So that kind of puts some weight behind it, that all of those threads fit, because sometimes it can get difficult understanding things, especially in this modern age with so many different people's opinions, or like lots of AI stuff online, a kind of mishmashing of things. So we can't really understand. So when we follow these threads, we can kind of see with a bit more clarity. That's really interesting. I just want to go through some of my notes here. I've written down for over the past 20 minutes that the center of Saturn's cube relating to Mercury is interesting because the 23rd letter of the Greek alphabet, so 2 and 3 is a 5, is psi, PSI. Because when I'm talking of psyops, that's PSY, which is to do with our psyche, psychological operations. But at the same time, when I say or hear psyop, I have in my mind's eye PSI, pounds per square inch, density. And it's interesting that its symbol, PSI, is a trident, which is to do with like wave function, because this is how we're manipulated, is by the wave, by the moon and the tides and the subconscious and our tides, the waters in our psyche being pulled back and forth. So it's very interesting. There's actually a film called Spiderhead. Came out, what year was it? Let me check. Spiderhead came out in 2022. Very interesting. It's about on an island where they try and manipulate people via different injections, and they're trying to perfect the number 6. This number 6, which is to do with like manipulating people. And when the boat's driving up to this facility on this island, there's a number 23 on the building. And I've always wondered, why is the number 23 there? Is it twice 3? Is that the digamma? Is that changing consciousness? That makes sense. But what makes more sense to me is the number 23 being the 23rd letter of the Greek alphabet, relating to psi, PSI, and wave function. Very interesting. If anyone wants to go check that film out, it's quite a good movie. It's called Spiderhead. Also, you were mentioning the Access Monday earlier. I've only just thought of this earlier, but the axis Monday, the kind of spin, is how we access. The axis is how we access the monde or the monde. So the mon being the one, and the day being another name for God. You can spell it die or day or deus. It's God. So the axis Monday is how we access the one God, source. Not anybody's one God take on the many different variations of gods, just source. That is how we access source, is by being centered. And that on the Saturn's cube, I always view the blue line as the vagus nerve, the connection of the heart and mind, the connection of the heart and brain, and the center being the 5, Mercury. Well, the messenger of the gods is the traveling between the heart and the brain, is between the 2 poles, the 2 polarities. That's the caduceus, the Ida Pingala, the Shashumna, the spin, the co-deus us. Co is union, cooperation. Deus, that's either twice or dies, change.
Or the same as.
What's that?
Or equal to.
What, Deus?
Yeah, Deus is also equal to, like in tennis, 15 love, 25 deuce means you're balanced scales.
So like 2 as well. Deus is 2, I think, as well.
Yeah, but it means that like the number 2 is representing the balance of polarity.
Yes. Yeah, that's interesting. So when I view of the co-deus us, co-deus us, I haven't heard that before, but I always view Deus as God, or 2 or twice. That's what the co-deus is. It's a messenger of us and source. The 2. It's how we connect to source, the co-deus, the poles. And earlier you mentioned Snake Eyes, and there was a movie called Snake Eyes that came out in the 90s, 1998. I haven't looked into the similarities between that and Charlie Kirk. There are people who've had many conversations, done podcasts about the similarities between that movie and the Charlie Kirk assassination. So Charlie Kirk means church. Charlie is 3. Third church, third temple. That was the third temple ritual. And what do I mean by that? We have 1 temple, 2 temple, third temple, the middle way, middle pillar. It's about building this middle way. This is the digamma. First, you have to split consciousness, then external forces can get in when we're divided in our psyche. So I find that very interesting, because Snake Eyes, the film, and what Snake Eyes is to do with like duality. So that's very interesting. And then you showed the Magician tarot card. The number 1 looks much like the letter I. The number 1 looks much like the letter I. And the number 1 is clearly a wand. It's related to our wander as well. When our mind's wandering. Yeah, that looks like a letter I is the number 1. And that it's to do with the wand and wonder. The stick is the wand, is our connection to source. And this brings me to the word realistic, which I thought of the other day. When somebody's like, that's not realistic, that's not up to them whether it's realistic or not. Because what realistic is the real is stick. What's a reel? A movie reel, a projection. A projection is light. So it depends what you're shining your. It depends what you project into reality. That is what real is. And then is stick. The stick is your connection to source, or it's your wand. It's your wonder. So no one else can tell you what's realistic or not. This is magic. This is the magician. Is your real is stick. The stick is real. What you're connected to is real for you. And that stick, that connection, the magic, is how you bring what people would say isn't real into the real. And the real, in its etymology, is a real is a line, I guess. We can use the analogy like a fishing line. You cast out your stick, and then you reel in. So that's outwards. Let's reverse it, and you're casting your proverbial fishing line, your stick, the magician, out into the all mind, and you're bringing it into matter. You're bringing your wanderings into matter. You're bringing the potential into matter. So I just wanted to share that I find it interesting, that because it doesn't look like a number 1 at the top. It looks like the letter I, and that's to do with the central point, the axis mundi, the 5, the Mercury, the messenger between the gods, the magic.
Yeah, man, when you were saying realistic, like that blue stick is that stick. That's the axis mundi. and the realist stick is that you stick it to the ground is the top left corner, right? Because we've moved 4 points into the future of a rotating clock. So that number 4 is what goes into the ground, and number 4, is the builder. The builder has to build upon what is known, what is concrete, a foundation. You need to have a strong foundation. It's got to be realistic. You got to be realistic when you're building, otherwise your construction is going to fall to pieces, right? So that whole realistic, that whole thing is related to the number 4, and that's like when we become realistic, that's when we crystallizing our aura. And some aura crystallizations are good, and some are bad, So sometimes when we think we're being realistic, we're not. Like when the government says you've got to be realistic and you've got to pay money into a pension scheme, right? And then 15 years later, the global capitalists, they collapse your pension scheme, right? And all your money's gone. And we've seen this happen over and over. My mom lost a lot of money like that, right? Paying money into a pension scheme, and by the time it came to getting like what's going to be coming out is going to be a lot less than what she expected, because the global capitalists got their finger on it, right? And they managed to they find legal, clever ways of sucking the money out. So the government tells you to be realistic by doing that, but spiritually being realistic is growing your own food. Like two different ideas, same concept.
Oh, can I just say, with the builder and realistic, if you look at the old world buildings of Tartaria, what is tar? Tar is sticky, it's connection. Ea is the earth. When we were more connected to the earth, look at the unrealistic buildings that were created. When we were more connected to, I guess, our imagination or our heart, the earth, I guess, that's what Tartaria signals to me, is connected to the earth. We were able to build so much, like they look unrealistic. You have like these statues with like a veil over somebody's face and like veins in somebody's hand. It's very, very interesting because the builder is also, is it Uranus and the North Node? So you have the North Node, like, and Uranus. Uranus is like, is it, what that signals to me is coming from the darkness. Is that what Uranus is? Is Uranus the furthest planet in our solar system?
Well, yeah, I mean, Uranus is a powerful force for change. So Mars, number 9, right, has external agents that manifest it. So there's a bigger octave of Mars when it comes to manifestational. So 4 is powerful manifestation magic. And it's like these 4 cardinals, which is why all magic revolve around these 4 directions and these 4 elements. It's like elemental magic is like baseline to all magic. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely that relationship. And yeah, just to bring back as well, to add what you were saying about the real, notice that these 2 forces that represent centripetal and centrifuge, which are contraction, expansion, right? So if you want to put contraction and expansion into context, when something spins, it produces centripetal and centrifugal force, which are these 2. This thing, everything is spinning around the central axis, the axis mundi. So the real is spinning around this blue axis, and the realistic, right? The real element of the stick, the number 4, is in the earth. So it's like interesting, how that sort of ties into the notion of a reel that's spinning. And I think that holds a lot of sort of importance as well when we are sort of looking at the way in which this 4 becomes the 4 represents being stuck, a stick in the mud. When you say a stick in the mud, you're talking about the number 4. When you're saying being boxed in, like stuck in a box, you're talking about the number 4, right? 4 walls around you. You feel like you're in a prison, you know? So, you know, when someone's too square in school, when we called someone square, it meant that they were too, they couldn't relax. They were too rigid. When you're too rigid, and these are the rules, so follow the rules. Those are the rules, follow the rules. It's like, hey, dude, let's go and have a spliff. No, those aren't the rules. I'm square. It's like, dude, come on, let's go. We can go out and have a spliff at the beach. The teacher's not here. You know, like naughty kids, that's what you do. No, the square in the class is going to be, no, you broke the rules. I'm going to tell the teacher, Nam, they were smoking a spliff on the beach. That's the square, right? Trying to keep everything the way it is. Nothing's allowed to change. Everything must stay the way it is. These are the rules. Everybody must stay in the box of the rules. So that those rules are related to the 4. So it's ironic that, you know, those rules that can strengthen our aura and give us the structure and the support we need to keep our energy field well bolstered can also make our energy field stand like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, you know, and all higgledy-piggledy if we are like too. And so that 4 represents not being alive in Chinese numerology because of the stagnancy attached to the number 4. It's when you've learned what you know because you've learned what you know, and you know what you've learned because that's what you know, right? And so there's no opportunity for growth. There's no opportunity to learn anything new. There's no opportunity for any expansion principle or even contraction between those breath. The breath is not able to flow because the breath is stuck. So the Chinese are afraid of the number 4, and they revere the number 8 because the number 8 brings the movement of 5 into number 4. And we'll see in the center of this glyph, number 5 is the principle of movement. So even though number 4 is stuck in the ground, it's bound to the harmony of 6, and the harmony of 6 binds the 4 into the earth with the movement of 5. So even though 4 is stuck in the earth, it's got 5 to maintain the movement around it, to keep the refreshing prana and the energy in the field flowing. But 6 is the key, and 6 represents the polarity you were talking about just now, right? Deuce is 6. 6 is the perfect way to manage polarity. Polarity is the moon, but Venus can manage the polarity. So Libra, as an embodiment of number 6, represents the scales, and the scales are like always moving, right? But even though they're always moving, they find their own place of rest within the movement. So that's like an interesting, because number 2 is a very mutable energy.
Well, also, right? The scales could be the musical scale.
Yes.
So the frequency too. The frequency, the sea of, like, you know, the water, it's always moving. And the water, you know, or the sea, what we see, the matter, is always moving. It's malleable depending on our perception. And it changes with time. Like if we wait, things will change. So it's interesting to look at all of the wording, like scales being like, yeah, this and that, up and down, but then also the musical scale too, because we've got to remember we're in a frequency and we emit frequency, and depending on our frequency that we tune into, what frequency we're tuning into, that would depend on what we frequently see. And the frequently seeing will be also what will frequently be. Well, what we frequently see is that's what will be. And it's a kind of dance. It's a kind of dance of like frequencies we're tapping into, tuning into, can alter our perception of who we are and our perception of like what we are, what we're becoming, and how we perceive reality too. So I think that's what this all comes down to: our perception of ourselves and our place in the universe and in this world, and in turn how we reflect, or how the world reflects back to us also. Yeah, so we should probably wrap up soon, because we've been going for almost 3 hours and it doesn't seem like it at all.
I was just about to say that to you like 10 minutes ago, and then I forgot, and I was thinking like, now maybe we can wrap this up within the 3 hour mark. So absolutely, brother.
Yeah, well, I do that quite often. I'm like, oh, it's been almost 2 hours. Maybe we should wrap up soon. And then we start talking about something else that's interesting. And with these conversations, you can't really have like an hour conversation. It has to just flow. You have to kind of get into like the flow of it and see where it leads. And that's when we find interesting things, is, you know, just letting the conversation flow and like wandering off, like drifting off into unknown space, and then trying to bring it back. Sometimes I do get a bit lost at sea, kind of try and orientate myself back to the original frequency, to the original like topic at hand. But you know, it's all threads lead to the same picture. So
yeah, brother. So you want to say your last pieces? Yeah, man, throw it on.
See, this is a this isn't like a last piece. This is like probably like another hour. But have you know the four? Maybe next time we'll get into it. But like the 4 rivers, you know, with black rock in the center. This ties into our thoughts and the force and magnetic north and black rock and currency, and black rock basically monopolizing the system, and these 4 rivers being tied into foresight or forethought. And it also reminds me of an eye as well, like black rock, magnetic. We have a pupil, which is black, where where kind of light goes in, like in this realm, light goes towards the north, magnetic north. Our literal energy is being siphoned off by black rock. How profound is that? Black rock, you know, in the financial system as a corporation that needs our cooperation. We need to remember it's a corpse operation, and that they have the monopoly. And in this realm, there's black rock in the center with the 4 rivers which flow into the central point, magnetic north. And then we have our eyes, our pupils here, which is black, which we draw light towards. So I think in a future discussion we can get into that, because I tried finding an image of black rock and the 4 rivers, but I haven't been able to find one. I've seen them in videos that people have shared online, so maybe I'll try and steal one.
Maybe if you put in the search term Rupus nigra, that's like the old mythological name of it, Rupus nigra, and you might find a cool picture with 2 dragons, because there's the myth of 2 dragons protecting Rupus nigra, and that you can't find the place because the dragons won't let you get close to it. Yeah, it's a mythological place.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, man.
No, I was just going to say that's so interesting, because I wasn't aware that the 2 dragons protected Rupus nigra, because I've been saying for a while that I view the gold that dragons protect in the cave, like the myth of dragons hoarding gold in the cave, as the cave is Plato's cave, is Pluto's cave, is the subconscious. The cave is our internal world, is our subconscious, and it's protected by dragons. And that when we have a balance of heart-brain connection, a union of opposites, when we kind of become this dragon, which I just view as plasma beings, like the same time being able to hold and protect, at the same time as being able to breathe fire, as being able to hold space but breathe fire, the masculine and feminine. That's what I view dragons as, this kind of protective energy, and they've been demonized. So interesting that you say dragons protect Rupus Negro, this black rock, because this black rock, magnetic, this place that draws in this current, it's not just external, it's internal. It's internal too. And I'm looking forward to learning more about that. And I've just actually found an image. I wasn't aware it was called Rupus Negro or Rupus Negro. It's 33 miles wide. Did you know that? 33 miles wide. That's interesting. Very interesting. So I'm going to do some research into this black rock, but just because I've got so many different avenues of like connections, which like I believe fit. But first I need to look into it and do some like real research and see what it says about it. And these two dragons, the Caduceus, these two snakes, two dragons, and that's the central point. And yeah, so thank you for letting me know that, because now I have an image and now I have some dragons to research, which I've always been drawn to dragons, hence why my logo and Systematic Zoo is a dragon. So yeah, very interesting. Also, there's a story of I think it's either Nyx or Atlas, and it's to do with golden apples being protected by dragons, which is interesting because the golden apples, the apple, the forbidden fruit, is knowing what is good and evil, and the gold is related to our current or our currency. Our true currency is our data, is our light codes, is our DNA. That is what our true currency is. And this is what all roads in my psyche stream of awareness lead to, is our gold, our internal flame, and then how this ties into black rock and these dragons. So yeah, perhaps we can talk about that next time, because I'd love to get into it now, but I need to go meet Esme and Ori in Brighton. Otherwise, I'd happily talk for another few hours if you had the time. But it's probably best to wrap up. Yeah,
it's been in the chat have enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. To the family salad, D-Love, and all of you people that have been here, enjoy, and the star, and the whole crowd, sending you all so much love and so much blessings. I hope you guys take it easy. Hope you have a good day. Who was missing today? There was a couple of people missing.
Yeah, big love to everyone else.
Big love to everybody else. Yes, that's right. Time zones. We're all in different time zones. We forget that. But we will be back on Saturday as always. Might be doing a sesh on Friday as well. That's like an early morning session. I don't know if you want to join us, if you're available. It's quite early. No, it's not. It's like our midday. But that's on Friday, so it's normally tricky for you sometimes, I know, because of your routine. So I should be back here with on Friday with Tortree. On Saturday, same time, 6 p.m. No, sorry. 5 p.m. UK time, because they just changed their clocks in London, like on Sunday. Your clocks changed, right?
They changed on Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Sorry, Saturday, Sunday. On the weekend.
No,
just after our live.
They've changed already.
Yeah. They just changed over the weekend. I thought it was on Sunday was the first day. But anyway, Saturday, Sunday. And so it will be 5 p.m. UK time and 12 p.m. New York time. So between those two poles, you guys can figure out which place is closest to you, to idea. But yeah, I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic and super awesome week. It's been an honor being here. Yeah,
Can I
brother.
just say something really quickly? Salad. I've never seen salad in the chat before, but they're throwing out some really interesting things. That gold is AU, and then they've said aura, author, authority, authentic is also relevant because author is to do with writing and to do with books, and in the library is where the light is buried. And then stories, it's a store of Ori is a store of light. So yeah, really interesting stuff there. I love it when people throw stuff into the chat. So big up Salad, the Star, Tom Brewer, everyone else as always. Hopefully see you on Saturday. And yeah, much love.
Yeah, man. And you're right. You know, the Or story, because that's why August is the month which occupies Leo. Leo and AU is the metal of gold, the king's metal. It's the house of the sun, gold, Leo, August, augury. An augury is how you tell the future, right? You are an augurer if you are looking for water under the earth. That's a form of augury. Tarot could be a form of augury. They used to open up animals and look at their organs. But yeah, brother, you got to run. Big love to the kids. Big love to your missus. I hope she is well and thriving, and hope her naturopathy is going well. It's cool to have a naturopath in the house. Really cool.
Homeopathy, but it's the same, similar.
Yeah, man. Big love to all of you in the chat. Blessings, peace, honor, respect. Take it easy. Keep it smiling. And yeah, share that smile because smiles are contagious. Om Shanti.